Chapter 11:18. Why did the cowardly Lan Xiaoni have the courage to save him? If the answer was love, then either Enlin or Lan Xiaoni would be dead. Of course, Enlin didn't think it was love. Instead, it was a scorching emotion of dependence and loyalty. Of course, he couldn't say that as there were still risks involved. Enlin replied with a nonchalant expression, "I saved her life in the tomb, and she's a person who will always repay those who have helped her. Hence, she didn't even think twice before risking her life to save me." That was the perfect answer. Not only did it explain Lan Xiaoni's motives, but it also created a good image of her as someone who would always repay favors. If it weren't for Lan Xiaoni's words, he would have thought that this was the truth. And Lin really couldn't accept this kindness, so he could only come up with this excuse to explain himself. As the big boss, protecting her underling and giving her a pillar of support was perhaps the only thing Enlin could do for Lan Xiaoni. Su Xiaolan felt that this was reasonable, so she merely gave him a few chestnuts in anger and warned him to stop fooling around outside. Then, this matter was over. Lan Xiaoni quickly became acquainted with most of the members of the 4-9 Immortal sect. Enlin decided that since Lan Xiaoni had already appeared, he might as well get her to meet Bai Yao and Xiao Chou in advance to resolve this issue. Thus they got to work. Enlin led Lan Xiaoni to where Xiao Chou and Bai Yao were. The newlyweds were given a massive fright upon seeing Lan Xiaoni. They almost thought that she was here to kidnap them again. Lan Xiaoni then brought out a bunch of treasures from the Spirit Fish clan from her storage ring. The situation had completely reversed. The scene instantly became harmonious, and it was a scene of joy and harmony. Lan Xiaoni apologized sincerely, but Xiao Chou and Bai Yao didn't mind. Thus, the two of them buried the hatchet. Lan Xiaoni walked out of the wedding palace with a carefree smile on her face. Big Boss Enlin, the people of the 4-9 Immortal sect are all very nice. I really like this place. These were Lan Xiaoni's true thoughts. She had received kindness that she had never even dared to imagine. All of this had changed her view of the cruel cultivation world. At least there was one place where people yearned for warmth. You can come here often if you like. This is your second home. Enlin smiled. Yes. Lan Xiaoni was elated as she led the way. She was still wearing a black robe. This was a celestial artifact given to her by her father. Other than those she allowed, no one would be able to detect her presence. Oh right, how did Yi Ling discover her? Lan Xiaoni was at a loss for a moment before muttering to herself, could it be that I'm having my period because of these clothes? She was a thick-skinned girl, so she suppressed her doubts. The wedding was about to take place. Tens of thousands of representatives from all over the world gathered together, looking forward to the sacred and solemn moment. Many people that Enlin was familiar with came again. Among them were the representatives of the Vermilion Bird sect, Zhu Shuze, Yang Yuan, Lan Yen, and Mo Hai. Hi. My sect leader Enlin, come here quickly. Lan Yen, who was dressed in purple, waved at Enlin excitedly. When Enlin saw this, he walked over. A vibrant smile appeared on Lan Yan's face. I want to interview you. What are your thoughts on Xiao Chou's wedding? Will the wedding date between you and classmate Xiaolan be affected and be shortened as a result? Enlin snapped, I don't have any thoughts. As for the wedding date, why don't you help me out as his best girlfriend? What kind of man are you if you can't even handle your own Dao partner? Lan Yen stuck out her tongue and couldn't be bothered to help him out. The light in Lan Xiaoni's eyes dimmed slightly upon hearing this. Enlin wasn't expecting Lan Yen to help him out, so he continued to ramble on and ask about the Vermilion Bird sect. Come to think of it, he was an honorary elder of the Vermilion Bird sect, so he naturally had to pay attention to the Vermilion Bird sect from time to time. Not long after that, Enlin turned toward another man. Mr. Yang Yuan, I have something else that I want to talk to you about in private. What is it? Please go ahead, Mr. Enlin. Yang Yuan followed Enlin to a secluded corner with a curious expression. Enlin pointed to the ring on Yang Yuan's finger. Has your ring been able to trigger the power within it? Yang Yuan had obtained 4 rings from an ancient underground palace in the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds, each of which had the words East, South, West, West engraved on them. The wearer of the rings had a certain probability of summoning the power of a man-tribe heroic spirit. In order to repay him for saving his life, Yang Yuan only left the West ring with the word West engraved on it. The other 3 rings were all given away. Enlin received the East ring, Mo Hai received the South ring, and Shangguan Yi received the North ring. Enlin had initially thought that this ring only contained the will of a powerful dragon tribe being, but who would have thought that the black dragon within the ring would be far more powerful than he had imagined. Just a projection of its power was able to cripple a return to void final stage mighty figure with a single blow and swallow a divine tool that had manifested into a massive sea dragon. Just how powerful did the black dragon have to be able to do this? This ring was definitely not as simple as it seemed. However, Enlin was a little disappointed by Yang Yuan's reply. Ever since I progressed to the return to void stage, I've been consolidating my cultivation base and have never triggered the power within my ring. Why would you bring this up, Mr. Enlin? Enlin had no choice but to describe the peculiar state of his storage ring to Yang Yuan. Yang Yuan's mouth gaped open upon hearing this. Are the rings I obtained really that bad *SS? Yang Yuan was astonished. Enlin was also astonished. So you really don't know? Yang Yuan, Enlin, everyone fell silent. Both of them fell silent. After a long while, Yang Yuan finally broke the silence. Mr. Enlin, I obtained these 4 rings from the underground palace in the southern region of the Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds. You might not believe me when I tell you this, but the monsters guarding these 4 rings were at most soul formation stage, Enlin. Yang Yuan continued. The ancient palace I entered was in an extremely dilapidated state, and the ground was littered with the carcasses of ancient beasts that exuded astonishing energy fluctuations. These ancient beasts must have been extremely terrifying beings when they were alive, and it was exactly because of this that I was able to deduce that the rings I obtained were extraordinary. The rings were floating silently in a place called the Holy Temple of the Man tribe. I took them with me, and everything went smoothly without any resistance. That's the whole story. Yang Yuan looked at the rings in his hand with a hint of fear in his eyes. Mr. Enlin, you said that the living beings in the storage rings would absorb your power without any reservation when they attack. What if the owner of the rings didn't have enough power? Would they be sucked dry and die on the spot? This was a very serious question. Enlin was unable to answer Yang Yuan's question. At the time, he felt like if his divine body wasn't powerful enough, he really would have been sucked dry. The Vermilion Bird Trial Grounds is where the holy beast Vermilion Bird is imprisoned. Could the 4 holy beasts in the holy temple of the Man tribe be the legendary holy beasts? Enlin speculated. Yang Yuan was given a fright upon hearing this. How is that possible? You're saying that these 4 rings were left behind by the legendary holy beasts? Is there any other explanation? Enlin splayed his hands open. Yang Yuan was still a little confused. If that's the case, then the holy beast Azure Dragon should be in the Eastern Ring, so why did a black dragon jump out? Enlin, did the Azure Dragon get tanned? Yang Yuan, do you even believe what you just said? Just like that, they reached another dead end. Thus, their discussion came to an end. Enlin's only discovery was that his rings might have something to do with the 4 holy beasts. Of course, this was only a guess. He could only hope that one day in the future, the Black Dragon boss would appear again and answer his questions personally. Chapter 11:19. Amidst the melodious celestial music, Xiao Chou and Bai Yao began their wedding ceremony. Under the blessings of tens of thousands of people, they bowed to heaven and earth, to their parents, and to each other as husband and wife. Everything went very smoothly. There was no kidnapping, no unexpected situations. Thus, Xiao Chou and Bai Yao became husband and wife. A Chinese wedding, a Western wedding, and a Chinese wedding. Petals rained down from the sky. Lan Xiaoni's heart stirred as she looked at the blissful couple on the stage. What a beautiful wedding! This is what love looks like. Back then, he was the bride snatcher, and now, he was a bystander. A special feeling welled up in Lan Xiaoni's heart as she looked at his wedding. It had to be said that fate was a very strange thing. It could allow Xiao Chou and Bai Yao to be together, but it could also allow Lan Xiaoni to recognize her own feelings and become friends with the married couple. Lan Xiaoni stared blankly at Xiao Chou and Bai Yao with yearning in her eyes. Lin was also very yearning, and he subconsciously grabbed onto Xiaolan's hand. Su Xiaolan blushed, but she did not resist. A beautiful woman shimmering with golden light reached out her small, crystalline hand and silently held Xiao's hand. There was also a hint of shyness on her face. That's right, she was none other than Fanny, who had come all the way from the Pill Tower of the opposite shore realm to attend the wedding. Going to someone else's wedding in person always gives rise to many other thoughts. For example, he wanted to get married after the wedding ceremony. The guests drank to their heart's content. Lin and everyone from the 4-9 Immortal sect also did their best to play the role of hosts, and everyone enjoyed themselves to the fullest. Lu Qianhuan also drank a lot of alcohol that day. Her fair face was flushed red, and she raised her golden jade goblet and clinked glasses with Lin. Lin, my heavenly sword sect didn't send a congratulatory gift. It must have been that bitch who instigated it. Please don't take it to heart. I'll punish myself by drinking 2,333 glasses. As she spoke, she drank the entire cup in one gulp. She clearly had the body of a soul formation cultivator, but she was so drunk. Who knew how much she had drunk? You don't have to drink so much. Just drink 666 cups as a penalty. Lin advised. Lu Qianhuan faltered slightly upon hearing this before bursting into laughter. She raised the golden jade goblet high into the air. Sure. Then I'll punish myself with 666 cups. I'll accompany you. Lin also raised his cup. All Lin could do was accompany Su Qianhuan and drown her sorrows in alcohol. This wine was an immortal brew that Bai Ling had obtained from her phoenix small world. It was very fragrant and sweet, and had a very high alcohol content. Not only would drinking it make one feel extremely comfortable, but it could also help one forget about their troubles. Hence, it was also known as the carefree flying immortal wine. This was a wine that could make immortals drunk. After drinking 666 glasses of wine, Lin staggered away from Lu Qianhuan's table and was dragged to another table by Xiao Zhe. Master, Fanny says she wants to stay at the 4-9 Immortal sect, Xiaozi whispered. Haha, this is a good thing. But did the in-laws agree? Although Lin was a little dizzy from drinking, he still asked this question instinctively. They did, but it's not permanent. She can only come here for a year. Xiaozi was a little disappointed as he said, and I can't do anything too out of line with Fanny during this year. Otherwise, the pill sage will break my legs. Fanny blushed involuntarily upon hearing this. That's a very reasonable request. Don't cross the line, little Xiao. Lin spoke with a solemn expression. He hadn't even done anything like that yet. How could his disciple be faster than his master? That definitely wouldn't do. Xiaozi nodded obediently. Yes, master. Fanny's pill refinement skills are quite good, so you'll be an elder in the Moon Pavilion established by Su Qianyun. Lin began to assign tasks. Oh, right, the pavilion leader is going to school now, and she doesn't have any disciples, so the entire Moon Pavilion will be up to you, Fanny. Fanny. Xiaozi. Fanny's lips twitched. Does that mean I have no followers? No. Lin shook his head. I have no followers. Su Qianyun is the commander. Fanny clasped a hand over her chest and nodded with difficulty. Thank you for your arrangements, master. Xiaozi was very elated, and he toasted Lin another 99 times in a row with Fanny. and Lin left his seat in a drunken stupor before he was dragged off to the side by the ball-shaped Ishi, who told him that he had to be given a chance to observe Lin eat a divine pill. Lin was completely baffled, and he agreed in a daze. He was then forced to drink 99 more times by the excited Ishi. After a short while, he was forced to drink by Donghua and Su Xian of the Greenwood imperial family. Donghua wore a resentful expression. "Have you forgotten about me? You didn't even inform me that Xiao Chou was getting married. I only had the opportunity to come to the 4-9 Immortal sect because I was with Su Xian." Lin's eyes were glazed over with drunkenness. "Brother, you are?" "Pfff." Donghua threw up a mouthful of blood with grief and indignation. "I'm your servant. What kind of master is this? How could you forget about me?" "So it's you. I remember you, my servant. Come, let's have a drink." Lin chortled with glee as he draped an arm around Donggua's shoulder. Donghua remained expressionless. "Lin, do you really remember me? What's my name?" "Ha ha ha," Lin chuckled dryly. "Names aren't important. Come, let's have a drink." Lin clinked glasses with Lin. "Donghua. He must have forgotten about me. He must have forgotten about me. My God. To think that a return to Void stage mighty figure like him would be reduced to such a pathetic state. So be it if he was a servant, but his master couldn't even remember his name." Tears of indignation streamed down Donggua's face as he forced Lin to drink like a madman in an attempt to drown his sorrows. This wedding celebration lasted for 3 whole days and 3 nights. All of the representatives from all over the world left, and Lin fell asleep from drinking too much. This was the first time he had gotten drunk since he had started cultivating. It felt pretty good. After he woke up, his head didn't hurt. Instead, his entire body felt refreshed, as if his entire body had been cleansed by the carefree flying immortal wine. "This wine is really good. It's better than most of the wines I've tasted in the past." Lin took a deep breath before praising from the bottom of his heart. "Of course. That's the wine I brewed myself. It's extremely beneficial. Just 1 cup of it can extend a mortal's lifespan by 10 years. Lin, you wastrel, how many cups did you drink yesterday? Over 100,000 cups, right?" Bai Ling glared at Lin with killing intent in her eyes, and she was clearly a little annoyed. The immortal wine that she had brewed with so much effort had been poured down her throat by Lin, so she was definitely feeling a little indignant. Lin smiled sheepishly as he praised shamelessly, "Big Sister Bai's wine is the best. The wine is sweet and the person is even more beautiful." "Is that so?" A voice suddenly sounded from behind him. Lin shuddered as he yelled, "Xiaolan, let me explain." Hee thump thump thump, bang bang bang, clatter 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 clatter, puff puff puff. After a round of friendly ideological education, the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal sect convened a meeting with all of the core members of the sect. It was time to take stock of the spoils of this wedding. Chapter 11:20. There were 2 objectives for this wedding. The first objective was to ensure that Xiao Chou and Bai Yao could have a complete wedding without being disrupted by outsiders. The second objective was naturally to generate income for the sect. There was a rule for holding a wedding in the name of the sect. That was, aside from the gifts designated for Xiao Chou and Bai Yao, all of the other congratulatory gifts would be counted as part of the sect's income. This was because many of the powers that had come to offer their congratulations had come for the sake of the sect. This wasn't to say that Xiao Chou and Bai Yao didn't receive any valuable gift. The gifts that they had received were probably worth more than the combined wealth of 2 return to Void stage mighty figures. Lin gifted 2 7th-grade immortal pills to the newlywed. These were known as blood-replenishing immortal pills, which could replenish one's life force at an extremely fast rate. This immortal pill would be able to sustain Xiao Chou for at least another hour after his life force was depleted by Bai Yao. Su Xiaolan, Xianyuan Qing, Lu Qianhuan, and the others had also gifted many valuable gifts. Aside from that, there were mountains of gifts from other sects and powers. All in all, Xiao Chou and Bai Yao had struck it rich. Of course, the sect was still the wealthiest. Finance manager Dabai and Xiao Zhe had already finished tallying up the gift. Everyone gathered in the conference room with scorching light in their eyes. This was always the time when everyone was the most excited. They could bask in the ecstasy of sudden riches. Dabai slammed his paw onto the table and cleared his throat. "Woof woof! Please speak human language," Anlin corrected. Dabai rolled his eyes before bursting into a joyful smile. "Our sect has sent out 1,000 invitations for this wedding, and there are a total of 660 sects and powers participating. Aside from that, there are also 230 itinerant cultivators at the soul formation stage or above participating." Anlin was very angry, and he slammed the table with an enraged expression. "Are they going to give us no face? There are over 300 powers that are going to disrespect our sect." Su Xiaolan shot a glance at Anlin. "You've already sent invitations to the demonic realm and the sinister spirit beast cesspool. Are you expecting them to come here and get beaten up by a bunch of immortals?" Anlin heaved a faint sigh. "The true demons in Little Na's world are still the cutest." Ignoring the nervous Anlin, Dabai continued, "Our faction has gained a lot this time. 36 spiritual items, 280 spiritual pills, over 600 spiritual fruits and spiritual herbs, over 100 tons of various rare materials, and 6 immortal pills." Woof! Everyone was overwhelmed with emotions as they listened. "Next, it's the important part, woof!" Dabai slammed the table angrily again and said excitedly, "The total amount of spiritual stones our sect obtained this time is as high as 40 million. Boom! In the meeting, everyone could not help but cry out. 40 million? It's even higher than last time?" Su Qinyun's blue eyes widened in shock. "Are you sure?" Xianyuan Cheng was also astonished. Xiao Zhe replied, "Dabai and I did the calculations 3 times, so there's no mistaking it. We only received a little over 30 million spiritual stones at the grand opening ceremony. Who would have thought that we would be able to raise 40 million this time? This is incredible." Elder Tang Shimin was in disbelief at this astronomical number. Everyone was given a fright by this number. Generally speaking, the grand opening ceremony was the biggest event of the year. In the future, there shouldn't be such a grand occasion, and there shouldn't be as many congratulatory gifts as there should be. However, there was now a situation where the reverse was happening. They had underestimated the 4-9 immortal sects' growing influence in this world. Anlin was the most composed of all of them. He interlaced his fingers together before speaking in a slow voice. 40 million spiritual stones from the wedding, and 50 million spiritual stones from the sect. However, that's still 10 million spiritual stones short of the 100 million we need to repair the Starfire battleship. As soon as he said that, everyone fell into silence. Was 10 million spiritual stones a lot? 1/10 of 100 million spiritual stones didn't sound like much. However, this was an unimaginably huge sum of money even for a first-rate sect. Lu Qianhuan waved the wand in her hand. Recently, a medium-sized demonic sect has appeared in the Wind Plane state. Arrange 10 powerful beings from the Divine Mirror Division for me. I'm going to destroy their sect and see how much money I can make. Anlin looked at the beautiful young sorceress beside him with a gratified expression. Lu Qianhuan's actions were very much in line with his philosophy of getting rich. Bai Ling, I'll be counting on you to make the arrangements. Anlin smiled. Bai Ling nodded. Aside from teaching their disciples and cultivating, these pavilion lords spent most of their time killing demonic sect members to generate income. By the way, has anything important happened in the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas recently? Anlin suddenly asked. Bai Ling turned to Anlin. What do you want to do? Borrow money, Anlin replied in a concise manner. Bai Ling, everyone, Even if they succeeded in destroying the headquarters of a medium-sized demonic sect, they would probably only earn 1 or 2 million spirit stones at most. This was still not enough to make up for this shortfall of 10 million, so they might as well borrow money from the Dragon Court. Master, you must stay calm and don't act recklessly. Shui Zhantian waved his little wings. The Dragon Court is fraught with peril, and you could be doomed if you're not careful. Xiao Zhe also nodded. Little Tian is right. I heard from Bailian that there are spell formations there that can be used against Dao integration stage super mighty figures. It would be very dangerous to rob them there. I'll say it again, I'm going to borrow, not rob. Enlin corrected. Everyone stared at Enlin with incredulity on their faces. Enlin, that's why I asked Bai Ling if anything important had happened in the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas recently. Are there any powerful beings outside of the Dragon Court that I can ask for help from? Enlin asked with a forlorn sigh. Everyone came to a sudden realization. So this was not an indoor robbery but an outdoor robbery. Oi, why are you all looking at me like that? Enlin's chest constricted. He was the sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal sect, but he was asking a Dragon Tribe mighty figure to bail him out? Who knew what he was up to? Following the battle at the Flying Ball Tribe mine, the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas has been quiet for a long time. Bai Ling continued, however, apparently, they're going to hold an ancestral worship ceremony on Heavenly Dragon Island of the East Sea. Ancestral worship ceremony? Enlin felt like this was a little familiar. Bai Ling explained, the Dragon Tribe is an extremely powerful and prosperous tribe in the ancient Tai Chu realm. The Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas Dragon Tribe is actually the descendant of the Ao family of the ancient Tai Chu realm, so their ancestors are naturally the Dragon Tribe of the ancient Tai Chu realm. This ancestral worship ceremony is most likely related to the Dragon Tribe of the ancient Tai Chu realm. Xiao Zhe nodded. During the era of the ancient Tai Chu realm, the Ao family Dragon Tribe was inferior to the Xiao family, but they were still passable. Enlin turned to his disciple with a gratified expression. Xiao Zhe's words were quite reminiscent of his style. The sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal sect immediately made a decision. All right, next, I'll borrow money from the Dragon Clan brothers. It's decided then. Chapter 11:21. You really want to go? There will most likely be many Dragon Tribe mighty figures attending the Dragon Court worshipping ceremony. Be careful not to die before you get your money, Bai Ling advised. Bai Ling, how about you come with me? Enlin asked. Bai Ling shook her head. I'm at a critical juncture in an experiment, so I can't leave for now. Enlin was a little disappointed. He couldn't get on her good side anymore. This increased the difficulty of his mission by more than twofold. Master, I'm willing to go with you. Xiao Zhe was extremely excited. I'll go with you as well. Su Xiaolan also chimed in. I suddenly have a feeling that my opportunity to make a breakthrough to the Return to Void stage might lie in the East Sea. Enlin was astonished. Xiaolan, you're about to make another breakthrough? Su Xiaolan nodded with a slightly apologetic expression. The vermilion bird bloodline in my body is too powerful. Regardless of whether it's the blossoming of the spirit root or the true dragon bloodline, all of it has happened naturally. The biggest problem now is how to perfectly fuse the vermilion bird bloodline with my true dragon bloodline. Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath upon hearing this. Was this what life was like with hacks? Alright, you come with me as well. If our opponent is too powerful, then we'll think of something else. Enlin agreed to go with Su Xiaolan. Giant Enlin, I'll go with you. Tina volunteered. No problem. Enlin was more than happy to be assisted by a Return to Void stage mighty figure. Bryce, you come with me as well. Stop basking in the sun all day and doing nothing. Enlin instructed. Basking in the sun is doing nothing? Are you looking down on people basking in the sun? Xiao Hong was unconvinced. Master, do you really want me to go? Autumn is coming and I'm feeling weak all over. Look, even my green crown has turned yellow. Bryce spoke with a weary expression. A yellow crown is a bad sign. It means that if I go, the mission will fail. The tree man explained in a slow voice. After this is done, I'll reward you with a milliliter of divine blood. Enlin added. I, Bryce, am willing to lay down my life for Enlin, holy leader. The treant shuddered when he heard this. The leaves on his head shook non-stop and instantly turned green. He swore loudly. Everyone, after a short discussion. The 4-9 Immortal Sex Lone Team was finally established. The team leader was Enlin, and the team members were Su Xiaolan, Xiao Zhe, Tina, and Bryce. Aside from Bai Ling, almost all of the 4-9 Immortal Sex most powerful cultivators had been mobilized. The dragon race's ancestral worship ceremony will begin in half a month. We will first go to the East Sea to gather information. Everyone, get ready! The team leader ordered, and all the team members echoed in unison. They were very enthusiastic. Enlin walked out of the conference room and saw a young girl standing under a tree. Big Boss Enlin, Lan Xiaoni called out in a crisp voice. Little brother Lan, were you waiting for me here? Enlin walked over with a smile. Lan Xiaoni nodded. The wedding is over, so I have to go back now. I wanted to say goodbye to you. Aren't you going to stay here for a few more days? Didn't you say you really liked the friends here? Enlin tried to persuade her to stay. We'll talk about it some other time. I still have a mission to complete. Lan Xiaoni winked cheekily at Enlin with a knowing smile on her face. Enlin recalled her mission as the Heaven's chosen one. All right, take care of yourself. All right. Bye, Big Boss Enlin. Bye, little brother Lan. Under the lush green immortal tree, the warm sunlight shone through the branches and leaves, sprinkling mottled spots. The two of them had a simple conversation and a simple farewell. Lan Xiaoni flew into the sky and disappeared from Enlin's field of vision. A smile appeared on Enlin's face as he looked at the departing mermaid. He felt like Lan Xiaoni had changed. She had become stronger than before, and she now had a goal and a determination to pursue. This made him very curious. What would Lan Xiaoni look like the next time they met? Night gradually fell. In the air above a certain obscure location on the Tai Chu continent, a boundless, inky black continent slowly drifted past, obscuring the moon and stars in the sky. A majestic imperial palace stood at the center of the continent, with 11 dazzling true monarch insignia hovering in mid-air. However, one of the insignia was flickering, as if it could crumble at any moment. 10 dark-winged tribe monarchs were gathered within the imperial palace, looking down at the woman on the ground with grave expressions. The woman's entire body was riddled with wounds. Not only had her flesh, bones, and meridians been severely damaged, but even her consciousness and sea of vital energy had also been severely wounded. The dark-winged tribe monarch was trying his best to treat the woman on the ground, but he was still unable to stabilize her condition. What's going on? The Moonlit Night Monarch is one of the top 3 super-powerful beings among us. How could she be wounded to this extent? She almost died just from trying to take Enlin's sword. Has this Enlin's power already reached such a terrifying level? You've always said that his explosive power is terrifying, but what about now? He can kill us even if he doesn't explode. Even the most powerful Heavenly Night Monarch among us wouldn't be able to complete the mission. I wanted to compete with Moonlit Night for a spot on the mission, but now that I think about it, I'm so scared. Thank God she failed. All of the monarchs discussed spiritedly among themselves. Some were sympathetic, some were elated. Some were even pulling out tissues to wipe away the cold sweat that had appeared on their faces. They all felt as if they had just narrowly escaped death. There's nothing I can do. Her injuries are too severe, and I don't have enough power to save her. The Dark-Wing Emperor heaved a forlorn sigh. Moonlit Night was only reduced to this state for the sake of the mission. Even though she failed the mission, at least she paid the price. I plan to feed her that divine fruit. Only then will she have a chance at survival. All of the monarchs had no objections. To them, Moonlit Night was a true warrior, and she deserved that divine fruit. That night, a crimson pillar of light soared into the clouds from the imperial palace, sweeping up the winds and clouds for thousands of kilometers. Not long after that, a crimson moon began to appear in the night sky. "Grandpa, Grandpa, look! There are 2 moons in the sky." On the ground, a little boy with 2 horns on his head tugged at the sleeves of the elderly man beside him as he pointed at the 2 moons in the sky. The elderly man looked up at the night sky. There were 2 moons hanging high in the sky, one as white as jade, the other as crimson as blood. The light from the 2 moons intertwined and seemed to be corroding each other. 2 moons in the sky? How many years has it been since I've seen something like this? The elderly man chuckled. Things have been getting more and more interesting lately. In the Moon Palace, the woman in the palace dress who was carefully selecting medicinal ingredients furrowed her brows slightly as she looked through the window toward the horizon in the distance. "You dare to compete with me? So be it. Let me kill some time." Chapter 11:22. "Master, Master, why are there 2 moons in the sky?" Yi Ling looked up at the sky with curiosity on her face. Lin replied with a serious expression, "This is a natural phenomenon caused by the refraction of light by the atmosphere. When the water vapor or other suspended matter in the atmosphere satisfies certain conditions, the light from the moon will be refracted, thereby creating 2 moons." "Wow, that's so impressive. Master knows so much." Yi Ling didn't really understand, but she still praised Lin with reverence on her face. She knew that her master liked to be praised, so she did as she was told. "Then why are the 2 moons of different colors?" Yi Ling asked. "That's the principle of dispersion. I'll explain it to you slowly. Under the 2 moons, Lin answered all of Yi Ling's questions from a scientific perspective. However, never would he have thought that both of these moons were actually real. The next day, Lin, Su Xiaolan, Xiao Zhe, Tina, and Bryce embarked on a journey to the East Sea. Heavenly Dragon Island is an extremely massive island in the East Sea. Apparently, it exists within chaos and only appears on the surface of the ocean every 10 years. Every time Heavenly Dragon Island appears, it's time for the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas to pay their respects to their ancestors. It's a pity that the coordinates of Heavenly Dragon Island are extremely mysterious, and only the core members of the Dragon Court have access to them. Su Xiaolan relayed the information that she had received from Bai Ling. Lin waved the scroll in his hand with a smile. "Ms. Bailian has already given us the coordinate." That's right, there was a traitor in the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. After learning that the 4-9 Immortal sect was facing financial difficulties, this Dragon Tribe prodigy chose to help without any hesitation and fully supported the money-borrowing team. They're paying respects to their ancestors. Wouldn't it be disrespectful if we borrow money from them? Tina was feeling a little guilty. Lin replied with a serious expression, "I'm not stealing or robbing, so how is that disrespectful to their ancestors?" Everyone was skeptical. "Lin, you have to believe me." Sun Wukong said the same thing when he went to the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas to look for weapons, Su Xiaolan said. Lin, ha ha ha. History is always surprisingly similar. I suddenly feel sorry for the Dragon King of the East Sea. Xiaozi couldn't help but laugh. After laughing for a while, he turned to the elf. "Little Na, don't think too much about it. I'm a dragon that has lived for hundreds of thousands of years, so I can be considered Ao Meng's grandfather, so I can be considered an ancestor of the dragon tribe. But those people from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas still want me to be their servant. They're disrespecting their ancestors, so what's wrong with us borrowing some money?" Xiaozi managed to convince Hina through the discussion of bloodline and ancestry. Lin suddenly became excited. "Little Xiao, you are the Dragon Clan's old ancestor. Then, as your master, wouldn't my seniority be even more terrifying?" "In theory, yes. Xiaoza nodded. Don't be so full of yourself. You've got to be acknowledged by the other families first. Su Xiaolan rolled her eyes and delivered a merciless blow to Enlin. Enlin suddenly recalled that Su Xiaolan also had connections with the Dragon Court. No wonder she was a little conflicted about seniority. She didn't want Enlin to be so much more senior than her. Xiaolan, you're about to see your grandfather, aunts, and uncles. Do you have any thoughts? Enlin asked. Not much. He owes me so much money for the new year, so this is the perfect time to pay me back. Su Xiaolan pursed her lips. Gasp! Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath. This reason seemed to be even more refreshing than borrowing money? Thus, everyone chatted idly as they traveled toward the East Sea. 2 days later, they arrived at the coast of the East Sea. The Pearl Kingdom. Everyone looked at the boundless blue sky and sea, and their mood lightened significantly. Are we going to find the location of Heavenly Dragon Island and wait for them to show up? Xiaoza asked as he looked into the distance. Heavenly Dragon Island will only appear for 3 days, and the dragon tribe will also hold the ancestral worship ceremony during that time. We still have plenty of time, so we can do some other things. Enlin smiled. Do what? Xiaoza was perplexed. Enlin held on to Su Xiaolan's little hand with a buoyant smile. Let's go shopping, Xiaoza. Just like that, the two of them started showing off their love without saying a word and strolled around the street. Enlin had been to the Pearl Kingdom once before, and he had even saved this coastal city, thereby becoming a celebrity in the Pearl Kingdom. Hence, even though he had been here for 2 years, many Pearl creatures still remembered him. As he and Su Xiaolan shopped, they would occasionally encounter Pearl creatures, who would happily roll around on the ground to express their gratitude and welcome. Enlin, it looks like you're very popular in the Pearl Kingdom. Su Xiaolan chuckled lightly. Of course, I'm a big hero to them. I was only a measly spirit-nurturing stage cultivator back then, but I faced off against an army of sea monsters and defeated several soul formation stage sea monsters by myself. It was a magnificent and majestic scene. Enlin boasted with a smug expression. A vibrant smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face, and she didn't interrupt Enlin. Enlin was loved by so many beautiful pearl creatures, and she felt a sense of pride and honor. The two of them strolled along the streets while enjoying the pearl dance. If they were interested, they would even buy some pearl powder and specialty seafood. There was a type of seafood called the spicy crispy flame coral, and it was quite unique. It was crunchy and crispy with a spicy barbecue flavor on the surface and tender sea meat inside. The scorching heat would flow through the body along with the delicious flavor, and it was very satisfying to eat. Enlin bought a ton of the spicy crispy flame coral in one go, and he planned to take it back to his sect or school to eat slowly. Storage rings were the best place to store things. They isolated and killed all microorganisms, so they would never go bad if placed inside. Su Xiaolan didn't buy ready-made ones. Instead, she bought a lot of interesting ingredients, and she planned to use them to improve her cooking skills. Her passion for cooking was even stronger than Enlin's, and she was more willing to put in the time and effort to study it. That's right, Su Xiaolan had improved a lot during this period of time. Her immortal chef skills and cultivation base had become more profound, and she seemed to be even more badass than Enlin. The frying pan was also basically under her control now. The title of #1 chef god of the celestial court was probably going to change as well for some reason. Enlin was struck by a sense of pressure. If Su Xiaolan progressed to the return to void stage, how would he, Enlin, be able to maintain his authority as a husband? No, he had to progress to the return to void stage as soon as possible. He had both a divine tool and a divine pill, and he was only missing the nurturing of a spirit. With this in mind, Enlin silently pulled out his evil-slaying sword and tried to persuade it. Little Xie, why am I risking my life to keep you? Isn't it so that you can find the best partner? I'm your best choice. Evil-slaying sword, we're a match made in heaven. If you still have a shred of conscience, nurture a spirit for me for the sake of my happiness, okay? Chapter 11:23. Unlin's request was quite shameless. The evil-slaying sword didn't remain silent this time. Nurturing a spirit requires not only your observation of the Tao of the sword, but also a channel for the sword to draw upon powerful energy. I already have a spirit, but I can't be born as a true living being. What I lack is the energy to manifest a spirit body. Unlin was extremely excited. Then how can I provide you with energy? If I knew, I would have told you already, the evil-slaying sword replied in an indifferent voice. Unlin faltered slightly upon hearing this. It is extremely rare for an immortal tool to nurture a spirit, and there is no set method for nurturing a spirit. I had thought that my method of nurturing a spirit would be to kill a Dark-Wing tribe powerful being and absorb their energy. It looks like either the Dark-Wing tribe powerful beings we've encountered are too weak, or there is another way. The evil-slaying sword rarely spoke for so long, and its aura was a little shaky as it panted heavily. Unlin asked, "The Dark-Wing tribe is too weak? Then how strong must they be to your liking?" The evil-slaying sword paused momentarily before replying, "At least not at the moonlit night monarch's level. Why don't you try killing a Tao integration stage Dark-Wing Emperor?" Unlin's mouth gaped open. Try killing a Tao integration stage Dark-Wing Emperor? Who gave you the courage to talk about this matter so casually? Hey! You sure know how to joke. Unlin's lips twitched. A soul formation stage cultivator fighting a Tao integration stage super mighty figure? Even the most bizarre fairy tale wouldn't dare to write something like this. The Dark-Wing Emperor could probably kill him with a single slap. No, there was no way he could complete this attempt. The evil-slaying sword replied in an indifferent voice, "Are you scared? That's normal. Let's think of something else then. I'm so tired, I'm going to sleep." Thus, the proud evil-slaying sword ignored Unlin and began to rest. Unlin had no choice but to let it do as it pleased. Now that he had a clear target, he could try to kill the Dark-Wing Emperor. Unlin was terrified just thinking about it. There was no way to play at all. He and Su Xiaolan strolled around Bolan City and finally found a seafood restaurant to enjoy the specialty seafood dishes. According to Su Xiaolan, going to different places to taste delicacies was not only an enjoyment, but also an experience that stimulated her culinary skills. It was very meaningful. He had to admit that Su Xiaolan was becoming more and more professional on the immortal chef path. "Sai, I'm not sure if you've heard, but I heard that the South Snake Sea has been storming for 20 days now. Rumor has it that a terrifying demon is about to appear there," a man who was half the height of a man said as he sipped on his soup. The other Black Pearl was shocked. "I'm fishing in the nearby waters. Should I stay away from that place? Thunderstorm? Doesn't the Southern Snake Sea have a few days like this every 10 years? The third Pearl had some understanding of the Southern Snake Sea. Unlin, Su Xiaolan, Xiaoza, and the others pricked up their ears. The Heavenly Dragon Island that they were going to was located in the Southern Snake Sea. At this moment, the fourth Pearl with a black eye patch chimed in. "It's different this time. Not only is the scale of the thunderstorm very large, but it's also lasting for a very long time. This is definitely an abnormal phenomenon. A few days ago, there was a reckless exploration team led by a spirit-nurturing stage powerful being who ventured into the Southern Snake Sea. They haven't returned yet, so they've probably been thrown into the sea to feed the fish." The faces of all the pearls turned solemn, and their white and round faces turned black. Of course, the Black Pearl's expression was completely obscured. Su Xiaolan transmitted her voice to Unlin. "It looks like the situation is a little different this time. Should we go and have a look?" Their original plan was to survey the area first, but the situation in the Southern Snake Sea seemed to be quite abnormal, so they might have to change their plan. Unlin nodded. "All right, let's go and have a look then." After finishing the seafood feast, Everyone returned to the beach and rose into the air before flying toward the coordinates on Balien's map. The mutant beasts in the sea posed no threat to Enlin and the others. Enlin basically killed all of the mutant beasts in his path. An hour later, a vast expanse of thunderclouds began to appear. Thick, inky black clouds stretched as far as the eye could see, cutting off the sunlight and plunging the sea into darkness. Gale-force winds swept for over 1,000 kilometers, torrential rain fell, huge waves surged, and countless bolts of purple lightning flashed through the clouds, creating a series of earth-shattering booms. This was most likely the phenomenon of the heavenly dragon island. Little Na, unleash your concealment divine technique. Enlin instructed. All right. Tina spread open her tiny hands, and a transparent ripple enshrouded everyone, concealing their auras. She had created her own spell techniques in the divine mirror world as a god of creation, and all of them were extremely bad *SS. At the very least, they were able to conceal themselves from Return to Void stage mighty figures. Everyone continued onward under the concealment of the spell techniques and followed the coordinates on the map. Howl! An earth-shattering roar suddenly erupted from the distance. Enlin and Su Xiaolan looked at each other before immediately accelerating. The roar was coming from the direction of the heavenly dragon island. Not long after that, a gargantuan black shadow appeared in their field of vision with a pair of crimson eyes that were like the flames of a candle in the darkness, striking fear into everyone's hearts. Senior, please let go of my son. A dignified and pleading voice suddenly rang out. Immediately afterward, a gargantuan black dragon rose into the sky before speaking to the black shadow in the distance. Enlin immediately knew who this voice belonged to, and he turned to the woman beside him. Your grandfather. Su Xiaolan heaved a forlorn sigh. It looks like something big is about to happen up ahead. We really came at the right time. The gargantuan black shadow gradually appeared before everyone. It was simply too big, so big that everyone could only look up at it. At that moment, everyone was also collectively dumbfounded. What a huge turtle! What a huge mountain! Tina let loose a cry of surprise. The little fairy couldn't find the right adjectives to describe the scene before her. She could only use the word huge to describe it. That's right, what had appeared before them was a gargantuan turtle. How big was it? Its body spanned over 150 kilometers, as if it were a gargantuan wall that had sliced through the boundless ocean. A gigantic mountain that was over 50 kilometers tall pierced through the clouds and looked as if it were going to pierce through the heavens was resting on its shell. No, that's not a turtle. Its head is a dragon's head, and its body is that of a turtle. Enlin corrected. Could it be a dragon that has practiced your evading turtle technique? Su Xiaolan chuckled. Enlin. You've changed, Xiaolan. What AF asterisk King stab at his heart. When Xiaozi saw this scene, he said the most reliable sentence. Master, the living being before us appears to be the only mythological beast born from the mating of our dragon tribe patriarch and the heavenly turtle tribe patriarch. It is the mythological beast that possesses the bloodline of the dragon turtle, Ba Xia. Chapter 11:24. It's a mythological beast? Enlin was given a fright upon hearing this. He looked up at the gargantuan creature before him, only to discover that even with his powerful divine sense, he was unable to ascertain the creature's power level. Su Xiaolan's expression also became grave. It's rumored that mythological beast Ba Xia's cultivation base is unfathomably powerful, and it's able to carry 3 mountains and 5 mountains on its back. For it to be referred to as a mythological beast, it must be at the Tao integration stage. Why would such a creature appear in this region of the sea? Bryce was perplexed. Enlin looked at the map in his hand before looking at the gargantuan creature before him with a peculiar expression. I feel like this mythological beast Ba Xia is most likely the heavenly dragon island of the dragon court of the eastern seas. At least from the coordinates, that's the case. Everyone instantly fell silent. Everyone turned toward the mythological beast in the distance with incredulity on their faces. At this moment, a deafening voice suddenly swept forth. "Aomeng, do you know why I attacked your son?" This was Ba Xia's voice, and it was imbued with boundless might. Aomeng's massive body was as tiny as a loach in the face of Ba Xia. "I don't know." Only then did Lin and the others discover that there was a white dragon in Ba Xia's mouth. The white dragon was struggling with all its might, but it was unable to break free from Ba Xia's mouth. Instead, its body was punctured by sharp fangs, and a huge amount of blood gushed forth. "That white dragon looks so familiar," Xiaozhe said. And Lin had seen its human form before, and he explained, "It's the third prince of the Dragon King, Ao Mingyu." Xiaozhe was enlightened upon hearing this. He had once swatted Ao Mingyu flying with his tail. Ao Mingyu was slightly more powerful than the second prince, Ao Shiyu, so he could at least take a slap from him. And Lin snuck a glance at Su Xiaolan to discover that her expression hadn't changed much, and she was merely appraising her grandfather and uncle with a curious expression. Ba Xia spoke again, "Hee, this little dragon dares to covet the divine item on my back? Who gave it the guts to do so?" Ao Meng's heart jolted with shock. Ao Mingyu begged for mercy in a loud voice. "I'm innocent. Senior. I didn't know it was your divine object. I thought it was a rare treasure. That's why I was anxious and made such a wrong decision." Ba Xia said coldly, "If apologies were useful, why would we need mouths? You have to pay the price for waking me up." Ao Mingyu shuddered as an expression of shock and horror appeared on his face. He knew that his father wouldn't dare to do anything to Ba Xia, even if it ate him in a fit of rage. "Senior, you can't do this. The people of the Dragon Court are half your descendants. Why are you so heartless? The divine item is still with you, so you didn't lose anything. Please spare my son." Ao Meng couldn't bear to watch his son die right before his eyes, and he pleaded for his son's life. Xiaozi heaved a forlorn sigh. Dragons are extremely sensitive to treasures. Perhaps Ao Mingyu really did make a careless mistake. It's just that Ba Xia has an extremely bad temper, so there's a good chance that he won't be able to reason with him. Sure enough, Ba Xia's eyes flashed with a crimson light, and his sharp teeth clamped down on the white dragon in his mouth with no intention of letting Ao Mingyu go. Right at this moment, another splash erupted on the surface of the ocean. A scarlet dragon appeared in front of Ba Xia. It wasn't very large, only around 1,000 feet in length. Its eyes were as pure golden as the sun, and its dragon horns were as translucent as red jade. There were bright red scales all over its body, from which countless divine symbols shimmered. Just from a single glance, this dragon was like the most perfect piece of art in this world. It danced in the air in an ethereal manner, as if it were a divine dragon that could fly into the heavens at any moment. Its pure golden eyes were fixed on mythological beast Ba Xia. "Senior Ba Xia, my useless little brother was indeed at fault here. Would you be able to hand him over to me to punish?" In contrast to its domineering appearance, this dragon's voice was a little lazy and casual. Ba Xia's eyes narrowed slightly, and it opened its mouth right before the astonished eyes of Lin and the others. "Tui! Howl!" Ao Mingyu screamed as if he had been spat out by Ba Xia into the ocean. Boom! A huge splash erupted on the surface of the ocean. Ao Mingyu's body spasmed as he floated on the surface of the ocean like a dead fish. He even threw up a large mouthful of blood, clearly having sustained severe injuries. A return-to-void stage dragon-tried mighty figure had almost been spat to death by a turtle. "I'll spare your life for Xiao Wu's sake. Don't do it again," Ba Xia said again. The red dragon bowed slightly before speaking in a lazy and ethereal voice. "Thank you, Senior. Remember, everything on the Dragon Turtle Divine Mountain, including every blade of grass and tree, belongs to me. You can pay your respects to your ancestors, but if you try to take anything from me, I'll kill you." Ba Xia's voice was like a clap of thunder, making heaven and earth tremble. The Dragon King of the East Sea hurriedly nodded and promised that he would never do something like this again. Enlin and Su Xiaolan were dumbstruck. Who is this dragon? Mythological beast Xia is giving it face? Xiao Zhe stared at the red dragon in the sky with incredulity. Enlin paused for a moment. Giving Xiao Wu face? Could it be that she's Ao Xiao Wu? Su Xiaolan was quite familiar with the dragon court. You're talking about the Dragon King's eldest daughter, Ao Xiao Wu? Enlin nodded. That's right. Bailian also warned me to be careful of Ao Xiao Wu. Ao Xiao Wu is focused on cultivation and doesn't like to fight. It's exactly because of this that Ao Qingyu is known as the #1 cultivator in the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. In reality, Ao Xiaowu's cultivation base is even more terrifying than Ao Qingyu's, and she's already halfway to the Dao integration stage. Of course, this is a secret only known to the core members of the Dragon Court. Xiao Zhe came to a sudden realization. That makes sense. No wonder Xia is giving Ao Xiaowu face. This was a world where power was everything. Xia could ignore the Dragon King of the East Sea, but he would give face to a dragon tribe exceptional prodigy who had a chance of progressing to the Dao integration stage. If there's nothing else, then piss off. Come back in 10 days, Xia said in annoyance. Its crimson eyes suddenly turned toward Enlin and the others as it spoke. Everyone was struck by an indescribable sense of pressure, as if a gargantuan mountain were weighing down upon their chests, striking them with a sense of asphyxiation. Tina's features paled. It can see us. My spell technique can't keep it from detecting us. Enlin and the others were given a fright upon hearing this. At this moment, they finally realized what kind of existence they were facing. This was a mythological beast that was renowned across the entire continent, a Dao integration stage super mighty figure. Their emergency plan didn't include a plan for what to do if they were targeted by a mythological beast. Chapter 11:25. Xia had set its eyes on Enlin and the others. Ao Xiaowu, Ao Meng, and Ao Mingyu also turned toward that direction with curiosity in their eyes, upon which they were greeted by the sight of Enlin and the others, whose spell technique had been shattered by Xia's glare. The members of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the 4-9 Immortal Sect finally met again in an unexpected manner. Everyone fell silent. Everyone fell into silence. In the end, the severely wounded Ao Mingyu couldn't help but roar, "Enlin, why are you here?" Enlin forced a smile onto his face. "Would you believe me if I told you that we were just passing by?" Ao Mingyu flared up with rage. "Do you think I'm an idiot?" Enlin couldn't help but grumble, "You almost lost your life here. Aren't you an idiot?" "You." Roar. PFFF. Ao Mingyu let loose an enraged roar before throwing up a mouthful of blood. Enlin's retort really was a devastating blow to him. "Ha ha! How dare you trespass on the Dragon Court's restricted area?" Ao Meng was elated upon seeing Enlin and the others, and he turned toward Xia with anticipation in his eyes. During the battle at the mine, he had already sworn a vow not to attack Enlin and the others, but mythological beast Xia hadn't sworn such a vow. This super mighty figure could attack Enlin at any time. Enlin was very powerful, but no matter how powerful he was, could he defeat a Dao integration stage mythological beast? A soul formation stage cultivator attacking a Dao integration stage mythological beast would be a laughingstock. Ao Mingyu also came to his senses, and he couldn't help but chortle with mirth as his body shuddered and he threw up another mouthful of blood. Mythological beast Xia spoke in a slow voice, "Trespassing on the restricted area is indeed punishable by death." Before Ao Mingyu and Ao Meng had a chance to celebrate, the voice sounded again. "But isn't he also a Dragon Tribe member?" A golden light suddenly flashed through Xia's crimson eyes, and a mysterious smile appeared on its gargantuan dragon head. "Huh!" Ao Mingyu was dumbstruck. "What did you say, senior?" Ao Meng was also dumbstruck. He turned his gaze to Enlin and the others. When his gaze finally landed on Xiaozi, realization dawned on him. So it's you. Xiaozi couldn't help but burst into laughter. You two sure have a long reflex arc. Ao Mingyu was unconvinced. But he's not from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. Shut up! Ao Meng interjected with a furious roar. Ao Mingyu came to his senses and looked at Enlin and the others with an indignant expression. That's right, the Dragon Clan's forbidden area. Those who weren't members of the Dragon Clan couldn't trespass. But Xiaozi was a dragon, and it was the primordial dragon race. This restricted area was not exclusive to the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. Instead, it was a place shared by the entire dragon tribe, so Xiaozi naturally had the right to come here. Seeing that Senior Baxiao wasn't hostile, Xiaozi bowed respectfully and said, Senior, these are my subordinates. Is there a problem? It doesn't matter. Those who aren't from the Dragon Clan can't enter the Dragon Turtle Mountains forbidden grounds anyway. My followers can wait outside, Baxia said in a calm voice. Enlin and the others heaved a sigh of relief upon hearing this. As long as the Dao integration stage mythological beasts didn't attack them, they would have a lot of room to maneuver. The red dragon in the sky glowed with a scintillating light, and its body gradually shrank until it transformed into a lithe and graceful woman in a fiery red dress with intricate dragon horns on her head. Balian was right. Ao Xiaowu was indeed a beautiful woman with long legs and fair skin. The only thing that was a little different from what Enlin had imagined was that Ao Xiaowu's expression was soft and feeble, making her look like a pushover. However, everyone knew that it was best not to piss her off. After all, she was a dragon tribe mighty figure that even Baxia had to respect. Ao Xiaowu withdrew her aura, and she looked at Enlin and the others with a nonchalant expression before turning her gaze away. Perhaps she didn't want to talk to them, or perhaps she just couldn't be bothered. She turned to Ao Meng with a gentle voice. Father, I've already wasted a lot of time here. If there's nothing else, I'll be going back now. Ao Mingyu interjected in a panicked voice. Big sister, aren't you going to teach Enlin and the others a lesson? You should know that the person who killed second brother is right here. Ao Xiaowu's brows furrowed. He's already dead, so what's the point of revenge? Are you trying to tire me to death? How can second brother live after I get my revenge? If they want to kill you and you're still alive, I might be able to help. Enlin and the others were astonished again. Ao Xiaowu's logic was so powerful. Wasn't her fear of exhaustion the most important thing? Ao Xiaowu made a grabbing motion and pulled the massive white dragon into the air by its whiskers. As for you, I promised Senior Baxia to teach you a lesson. Come with me to the Dragon Court to receive your punishment, and we'll return on the day of the ancestral worship in 10 days. Thus, the two dragon tribe mighty figures sank into the ocean amid Ao Mingyu's blood-curdling cries as his whiskers were yanked away. Ao Meng stood rooted to the spot, at a complete loss for what to do. Enlin spread open his arms. Come and hit me. Ao Meng. The Dragon King of the East Sea's face was flushed with rage, and his breathing accelerated. In the end, he could only spit out some threatening words. Do you really think I can't punish you just because you're up to no good? Just you wait and see. He had already sworn a Dao Heart vow that he couldn't attack Enlin or anyone from the 4-9 Immortal sect. If he went back on his vow, even his Dao foundation could crumble. What else could he do aside from hurling a few insults at Enlin? Ao Meng bade farewell to mythological beast Baxia before returning to the Dragon Court in a huff. Mythological beast Baxia closed its eyes and floated on the surface of the ocean like a gargantuan island. The ocean was still surging, and the purple lightning in the sky was still roaring. How interesting! Baxia's eyes were tightly shut, but an amused smile appeared on its face as it spoke in an almost inaudible voice. Meanwhile, Ao Meng had transformed into a dragon and was swimming toward the Dragon Court. Even though he wasn't all that powerful among Return to Void final stage mighty figures, he was still a mighty figure who had attained the power of the divine Tao. As such, it didn't take long for him to detect that something was tailing him. Ao Meng looked behind him and unleashed the Dragon Tribe's detection technique. And then, holy F***ck, what are you trying to do? The black dragon's body shuddered as it roared in fear. Behind him, Anlin, Su Xiaolan, Xiao Zhe, Tina, and Bryce were all chasing after him with sinister smiles on their faces. It was an extremely terrifying scene. Don't go, Mr. Ao Meng. We bear no ill will. We just want to borrow some money. Anlin waved his hands with a benevolent smile on his face. Ao Meng's entire body froze up upon seeing Anlin's smile. F***ck. How could he say something as shameless as borrowing money? Only an idiot would believe that. A chill ran down Ao Meng's spine, and he fled even more quickly. Not only that, but he also immediately dialed a voice transmission talisman. Hey! My dear daughter, Anlin and the others are plotting against me. Come and protect me. Chapter 11:26. Ao Xiaowu listened to her father's urgent cries for help, then looked down at her idiotic little brother, who was still being carried by her, and she suddenly felt a little annoyed. Father, you're a Return to Void final stage dragon, and you're being chased by a soul formation stage cultivator? After a brief moment of contemplation, Ao Xiaowu continued to swim toward the dragon court in an unhurried manner. You know how powerful Anlin is. Ao Meng spoke in a panicked voice. But you're Return to Void final stage mighty figure, so you should be able to run away, right? Ao Xiaowu spoke in a slow voice as she continued to drag Ao Mingyu toward the dragon court. Xiaowu, your father is being bullied right now and you're running away like this. Are you going to let this slide? You have to retaliate. Ao Meng roared with rage. Oh. Ao Xiaowu added in her heart. I really am going to let this slide. She didn't want to deal with all of this. All she wanted to do now was cultivate. Xiaowu, where are you now? Tell me when you're almost there, and we'll turn them around. Ao Meng asked. You go on ahead, father. I'll contact you when I'm almost there, Ao Xiaowu replied in a cold voice before continuing to swim toward the dragon court. All right, I'll wait for you. Ao Meng was very touched. Ao Mingyu. He couldn't help but ask, Big sister, are you really not going to save father? Anlin is a demon who kills without batting an eyelid. Father will really be in danger. If he really was that kind of person, then you wouldn't have been able to come back from the Spirit Stone Mine. Ao Xiaowu shot a glance at Ao Mingyu. Ao Mingyu instantly fell silent. Even though she appeared to be quite easygoing, no one in the entire dragon court dared to mess with her. Thinking back, there was still a little brother who dared to persuade Ao Xiaowu to fight. That was his fourth brother, who was also extremely talented and had a very pleasant personality. However, he was no longer around. Ao Mingyu didn't dare to say anything, and Ao Xiaowu continued to fly toward the dragon court. Xiaowu, where are you? Why aren't you there yet? Are you going in the wrong direction? Ao Meng's nervous voice sounded from the voice transmission talisman again. Ao Xiaowu blinked. Aya, which direction did you come from? Ao Meng. Ao Mingyu. What followed was a long series of explanations and questions. Ao Xiaowu replied intermittently. She had finally returned to the dragon court, which was like a pearl in the deep sea. The pitiful Dragon King could only run away frantically. He kept using his tail to control the raging water currents to attack and obstruct Anlin and the others. Only then did he manage to stop Anlin and the others' attack. Xiaowu, tell me the truth. Did you not come? Did you go back to the dragon court? Ao Meng's enraged voice sounded, and there was a hint of indignation in his voice. He had some understanding of his eldest daughter's personality, which was why he made such a bold guess. Ao Xiaowu nodded in acknowledgement. Ao Meng. The old Dragon King felt as if his heart had been pierced by a sword and the world lost its color. Don't worry, I've sent reinforcements to save you, Ao Xiaowu added. Roar. Ao Qingyu has already sworn that he won't attack Enlin. If you don't come, who's going to be able to deal with Enlin? Ao Meng exclaimed. Ao Xiaowu replied in a calm voice, Why would I attack Enlin? I'm only sending reinforcements to save you. Ao Xianyu is already there. Talking is so tiring. I'm hanging up now. Thump. The voice transmission talisman was cut off. Ao Meng held onto the silent voice transmission talisman and fell silent. His hands were trembling slightly. His biggest trump card was gone, and it was impossible for him to retaliate against Enlin. He was the Dragon King of the East Sea, but he was being chased around by Enlin and the others in the East Sea. This made his entire body tremble uncontrollably. Howl! Enlin, I'm not going to let you off. The black dragon roared with rage. Then come and attack me. Enlin also roared. Ao Meng. Within the dragon court of the Eastern Seas, the deep sea prison. Big sister, why are you here? A beautiful dragon tribewoman in a black dress made her way toward Ao Xiaowu with a smile. Ao Xiaowu tossed the man in her arms toward her. Sixth sister, Ao Mingyu has offended mythological beast Ba Xia, so reward him with a 9 heavens purgatory gift bag. This. The woman in black's eyes widened with shock. Just do as I say, Ao Xiaowu said in an indifferent voice. Yes. The woman in black nodded with a solemn expression. Aside from Ao Meng, Ao Xiaowu's words were the most important in the Dragon Court. Her words were to be obeyed, and no one would object. Thus, the third prince of the Dragon King, Ao Mingyu, was locked up in the deep-sea prison by Ao Xiaowu and began to enjoy a 9 heavens purgatory gift bag. After taking care of all the trivial matters, Ao Xiaowu returned to her own courtyard. She took off her red dress and changed into a pair of soft and smooth white pajamas before falling into a deep slumber. The divine Tao that she had attained was to sleep and dream. Because sleeping was both easy and comfortable. Hence, it could be said that she was sleeping, but it could also be said that she was cultivating. Meanwhile, in the deep sea 1,000 kilometers away from the Dragon Court, Enlin appeared beside Ao Meng with the help of Tina's spatial ability, and he held 2 different treasures in his hands. In one hand was the 1,000 possibility box. The other hand was the main priest's blood soul cross. Go, I'll seal off Ao Meng's movements. A scintillating light erupted from the 1,000 possibility box, and the projection of a beautiful woman in a white dress appeared again. Her aura was ethereal, and she was bathed in holy light, illuminating the dark ocean floor as she slapped a palm toward the black dragon beside her. Slap! A vast burst of boundless power swept forth, knocking Ao Meng flying. Xiao Zhe clenched his hands into fists. Water binding. The water in the deep sea surged relentlessly toward the Dragon King. Right in the instant that the Dragon King was being immobilized, Enlin hurled the blood soul cross. A series of crimson golden chains erupted from the cross, binding around the Dragon King's body. At the same time, a scintillating light erupted from the cross, and a powerful sealing force instantly repelled the water within a radius of over a kilometer. The cross fell from the sky and landed on Ao Meng's back. Boom! The gargantuan black dragon was immobilized at the bottom of the ocean. Enlin pulled out his large water ball and prepared to use it to determine the outcome of the battle. Howl! Don't push me too far. Boom! A powerful power of the divine Tao soared into the sky and broke free from Xiao Zhe's water binding. Even Enlin's blood soul cross was knocked flying as well. Enlin's expression shifted. Ao Meng couldn't attack them directly, but he could still use brute force to break free. He was just about to yell for Tina to use her spatial skipping to close in on Ao Meng. At this moment, another burst of laughter erupted in the distance. Ha ha! I've heard that sect leader Enlin is able to crush return to void final stage mighty figures at the soul formation stage. I, Ao Xianyu, want to see if you can suppress my spear today. A cold light appeared in the extremely far distance. It instantly sliced through the entire ocean. The extreme sharpness of the blade was astonishing. Chapter 11:27. The spear was like a dragon slicing through heaven and earth. In that instant, Unlin was struck by an extremely powerful sense of impending death. His opponent was clearly a return to void final stage mighty figure. Without hesitation, he took out the chaotic alloy brick and enlarged it in front of him to protect himself. Boom! The spear projection struck the chaotic alloy brick, and the white light exploded. An earth-shattering power poured forth, and even the seabed continent was torn to shreds by the shockwave. Unlin was knocked back over 10 kilometers before he was able to stop himself. Ha ha! The mighty sect leader of the 4-9 Immortal sect can only defend against my spear? A man wielding a silver spear with a dragon engraved on it chuckled with a hint of disdain in his eyes. He was tall and broad with a white buzz cut, and he wore a silver and blue battle robe with a hint of battle intent on his face. "Don't disturb my master!" Xiao Zhe roared with rage as his inky black dragon tail swept toward Ao Xianyu with unstoppable force. Right at this moment, a huge blue dragon suddenly tore through the seawater toward them. Twisting Dragon Palm. The huge dragon made a divine seal with its claws, which swept toward Xiao Zhe's dragon tail. The extremely powerful palm strike collided with the dragon tail, causing the space around them to twist and shatter, and the seawater within a radius of close to 10 kilometers was instantly swept back. Both sides were knocked back by the force of the collision. "Who are you?" Xiao Zhe's expression darkened. "So much for the primordial dragon tribe." A smile appeared on the huge blue dragon's face. "I am the general of the Dragon Court's Divine Guardian Squad, Lu Zhenhai." Xiao Zhe's expression darkened. His opponent was also a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage, and he was a veteran of countless battles. General of the Divine Guardian Squad? Why isn't the team leader of the Divine Guardian Squad here, Xiao Zhe? Unlin asked. Thinking back, Xiao Zhe was extremely in love with Bailian, and the Dragon King had forcefully betrothed Bailian to Xiao Zhe in order to win over that divine general. This was actually one of the reasons why Bailian had left the Dragon Court. That useless team leader should not have come here to embarrass himself. "We'll have to take care of you ourselves." Lu Zhenhai stared at Unlin with a scorching light in his eyes. Unlin rolled his eyes. "Take care of us? Don't you have any sense of propriety?" Setting aside Dao integration stage super mighty figures, he had slain so many Return to Void stage mighty figures that he couldn't even count on two hands the number of Return to Void stage mighty figures he had slain. Who gave a dragon tribe cultivator at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage the courage to say something like this? Lu Zhenhai was very stubborn, but Ao Meng was a coward. "Xianyu, is your big sister not here?" Ao Meng reverted to his human form and flew to Ao Xianyu's side. "How could she possibly come?" Ao Xianyu chuckled. "Don't worry, father. I alone am more than enough to deal with Unlin. I've already investigated him, and aside from some special artifacts, his combat prowess is still quite far below that of a Return to Void final stage cultivator. He's not as powerful as you think he is." Unlin raised an eyebrow. This Ao Xianyu sure was arrogant. "You have no idea who you are facing. Are you tired of living? Get back to the Dragon Court." Ao Meng roared. "Father, you probably don't even know how powerful I am, right? I'm going to show you my true power." Ao Xianyu had no intention of running away. He had lost the mind battle entirely because he didn't know his opponent well enough. As long as he shrunk down to his dragon human form, how would he be afraid of Unlin's large water ball? If he didn't unleash any powerful spell techniques, how would he be defeated by Unlin's strange mirror? "Unlin, this ocean will be the place where you perish." Ao Xianyu let loose an enraged roar as the white power of the divine Tao enshrouded his silver spear, imbuing it with an extremely sharp light. This power of the divine Tao was powerful enough to annihilate all things, and it was so terrifying that even the seawater around the silver spear was reduced to the tiniest particles. This was his divine Tao, the wind-crushing divine Tao. A smug smile appeared on the blue dragon's face. Seventh Prince Ao Xianyu's spear techniques are unparalleled in the entire eastern region of the Tai Chu continent, and he was renowned throughout the world for killing the poison demon emperor of the East Sea with a single spear strike. He's extremely proficient in killing, and even I have to concede defeat to him. Anlin smiled. Unparalleled in the eastern region of the Tai Chu continent in spear techniques? War God? Is that a self-proclaimed title? Anlin, who possessed the God of War system, was extremely indignant. You'll find out soon enough whether it's a self-proclaimed title or not. Ao Xianyu raised his head as battle intent surged from his body, and the spear in his hand trembled. Boom! Ao Xianyu charged toward Anlin with a silver spear in his hand, and the power of the wind-crushing divine Tao revolved around his body, annihilating everything around him. He created a vacuum in his wake with no resistance whatsoever, and his speed was even faster than the speed of lightning. Anlin activated his Fire God mode and his Divine Inspection technique at the same time to capture the trajectory of the spear projection. The spear projection was extremely fast, and even Anlin in his buff state was struggling to keep up. Wings of Wind. Kun Pung Travel. He raised his speed to the maximum and evaded the spear projection by a hair's breadth. The silver spear swept past his waist and punctured the ocean for several dozen kilometers behind him. Here's my chance. Anlin focused his gaze, and an extremely terrifying power instantly erupted from his fist, which was imbued with divine flames and holy flames as it crashed down upon Ao Xianyu. Ao Xianyu was not fearful in that instant. Instead, a triumphant smile appeared on his face. Arc of the Divine Spear. The silver spear began to elongate and bend under the pressure of the wind-crushing divine Tao, and the sharp spear projection was deflected by 180 degrees before stabbing toward Anlin's back. The thousand-change dragon-slaying spear was Ao Xianyu's immortal tool. It could take on countless forms, and it could even bend and twist like rubber. This spear combined with his wind-crushing divine Tao allowed it to attack in a myriad of different ways, but it was also able to maintain absolute toughness and destructive sharpness. No battle is completely safe. I'm already prepared to be injured in order to kill you. Ao Xianyu ignored Anlin's fist as a sinister smile appeared on his face, and he injected all of his power into his spear. Anlin definitely wouldn't be able to evade this attack. Right at this moment, a green light erupted. An extremely sturdy suit of armor suddenly appeared over Anlin's body, materializing into solid form. Ao Xianyu's pupils contracted, and his eyes widened. This is... His spear technique struck Anlin's armor, but it was unable to penetrate it in a short period of time. At this moment, an extremely terrifying fist had already crashed into his body, making his entire body cave in. His flesh, bones, and meridians all began to crack in an instant. Boom! The power of flames rippled through the air for over 10 kilometers. PFFF! Ao Xianyu's eyes widened, and he threw up a mouthful of blood as his body flew through the air like a cannonball for several kilometers. Xianyu! Ao Meng yelled in a panicked voice. Seventh Prince. Lu Zhenhai's expression also shifted drastically. Ao Xianyu wore an expression of shock and horror. How do you know the top-rate spell techniques of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe? Anlin's green turtle shell was extremely dazzling. Outside the turtle shell, scorching flames were burning as if they were going to evaporate the entire ocean. This was the Fire God Turtle Immortal mode. He slowly withdrew his fist. The number 1 spear technique in the eastern region of the Tai Chu continent? It's nothing special. Chapter 11:28. Ao Xianyu was infuriated by Anlin's words, and he threw up another mouthful of blood. What's your relationship with the Heavenly Turtle Tribe? Why do you know their top-tier defensive spell technique? He gripped his spear tightly, and his expression was no longer as relaxed as before. As for why he thought that Enlin's spell technique was a Heavenly Turtle Tribe spell technique, he couldn't deny it after seeing that dazzling turtle shell. Thinking back to his first battle against a Return to Void stage Heavenly Turtle Tribe mighty figure in the ancient Tai Chu realm, he had also seen this kind of insane defensive spell technique. The defensive spell technique Enlin was using now was clearly a lot more advanced than that of the mighty figure he had encountered in the past. I have nothing to do with the Heavenly Turtle Tribe. This is my self-invented war god armor. Enlin spoke with a righteous expression. Ao Xinyu's veins bulged. Nonsense. You're using a turtle shell as a war god armor. Don't insult the title of war god. Enlin also flared up with rage. What? Are you looking down on my turtle shell? The enraged duo collided into each other again. Boom, boom, boom. The collision of energy erupted at the bottom of the ocean again, as if the entire ocean was going to be flipped over. Ao Xinyu no longer chose to trade blow for blow. Instead, he relied on his extremely agile spear techniques to attack Enlin's turtle shell over and over again. Enlin was struck a few more times in just a few minutes, and his green turtle shell was beginning to crack open. At the same time, Ao Xinyu was also struck by a fist, almost to the point where his internal organs were pulverized. Son, let's get back to the Dragon Court. Ao Meng could see that Ao Xinyu was on the losing end. The basic pattern of the battle was that Ao Xinyu would attack the turtle shell over and over again. Enlin's health would drop by 100, minus 100, minus 100, then Ao Xinyu would be struck by a fist, and his health would drop by 1000 *CK. If this continued, Ao Xinyu was going to be screwed. Xiao Zhe and the others had initially wanted to help Enlin, but it looked like they didn't have to. On the other hand, the commander of the Dragon Court's Divine Guardian Squad, Lu Zhenhai, seemed to be unable to accept the scene before him. He mumbled, "Impossible, the seventh prince is the war god of our Dragon Court. How could he lose?" It clenched its claws and trembled slightly. It couldn't help but roar, "Seventh prince, are you still not going to risk your life at a time like this? Kill all these people and avenge the second prince. Revenge my **s. Ao Meng unleashed a vicious slap toward Lu Zhenhai. The Dragon King's furious attack was so terrifying that Lu Zhenhai screamed and fell to the ground. Ao Meng was extremely enraged, and he had been trying to persuade Ao Xinyu to retreat this entire time. However, the leader of the Divine Guardian Squad suddenly jumped out at a time like this and opposed him? Upon hearing Lu Zhenhai's words, a ferocious light flashed through Ao Xinyu's eyes. His body expanded abruptly as a series of dragon scales appeared on his skin, and his aura swelled explosively. Spiral Dragon Slaying Spear. The muscles on the Dragon Court war god's arms bulged, and the immortal tool, the 1000-change dragon slaying spear, twisted into a spiral shape. A silvery white dragon claw appeared at the tip of the spear, and the projection of an extremely mighty white dragon appeared behind him. This was the technique that had made him renowned across the entire Tai Chu continent. Just one spear strike was enough to kill a poison demon emperor of the East Sea at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage. Go! The 1000-change dragon slaying spear was like a spinning drill that was capable of shattering all things and twisting space as it stabbed toward Enlin's turtle shell. Enlin activated all of his latent potential to the maximum in order to defend himself against Ao Xinyu's attack. This spear strike was extremely fast, and not only was the spiral dragon slaying spear spinning in a spiral, even the space around it began to twist and warp. The twisted space was like a bottomless vortex that sucked in Enlin's body. There was no way to evade this attack. Enlin immediately stepped up his evading turtle shell defense while unleashing another merciless punch toward Ao Xinyu's head. The spiral dragon slaying spear pierced through the turtle shell in a frenzy. Enlin's fist also began to fall upon Ao Xinyu's face. Break through! A deranged expression appeared on Ao Xianyu's face as he chose to trade injury for injury again. Crack. Boom. The spell technique that Tianqingji was most proud of was broken by Enlin's spear. The sharp spear struck Enlin's body of the war god. Ao Xianyu's face had already been flattened by Enlin's fist. The thousand-change dragon-slaying spear also stabbed into Enlin's chest, and a sharp screeching sound erupted alongside the sound of his divine body being torn apart. The terrifying power of twisting twisted his flesh before slowly proliferating outward. He was trying to twist Enlin's bones and meridians along with his attack before destroying them. Unfortunately, he didn't get the chance to do so. Enlin's fist crashed down with unstoppable force, and Ao Xianyu's skull felt like it was about to explode. Bam! An earth-shattering boom erupted. Ao Xianyu's head was flattened, and his eyes rolled over into the back of his head as he threw up blood and shattered teeth. Right before the astonished eyes of Ao Meng, Lu Zhenhai and Xiao Zhe, the Dragon Court war god was knocked flying for tens of thousands of meters by Enlin's fist. Enlin was still standing on the spot. The shattered turtle shell gradually disappeared, but the flames were still burning, illuminating the entire inky black seabed like the sun. He held a hand over the ghastly hole in his chest, but his expression didn't change in the slightest. At that moment, he was like an invincible war god. Dragon Court war god? Is that all you've got? He spoke in a nonchalant voice, but no one dared to say anything. The general of the Divine Guardian Squad opened his mouth, but he couldn't find any words to retort. A faint smile appeared on Enlin's face before he pulled out a fifth-grade immortal fruit from his storage ring and began to chew on it. This immortal fruit was known as the 6th Revolution Azure Essence Fruit, and it possessed extremely powerful healing effects. His injuries were actually more severe than they appeared on the surface. Xianyu! Ao Meng yelled as he charged toward Ao Xianyu. Enlin yelled at Xiao Zhe and the others, "Get Ao Xianyu for me." Xiao Zhe, Bryce, and Su Xiaolan all began to hold off Lu Zhenhai. Tina had mastered spatial skipping, so she was even faster than Ao Meng in short-distance sprinting. A white streak of light flashed, and she instantly appeared before Ao Xianyu. She grabbed Ao Xianyu and performed another spatial skipping to appear before Enlin. Enlin grabbed Ao Xianyu and pressed his evil-slaying sword against Ao Xianyu's neck. At this moment, Ao Xianyu's cold features had become extremely ghastly. His eyes were glazed over, and he was mumbling incoherently, as if he had been hammered into a pulp. "Howl! Enlin, what are you trying to do to my son?" Ao Meng's eyes were crimson as he flared up with rage. He didn't really care about Ao Shiyu's death. However, Ao Xianyu was a return-to-void final stage mighty figure and a core pillar of the entire Dragon Court. Killing him would be equivalent to destroying the foundation of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas, and that was something that Ao Meng couldn't tolerate. "You might not believe me, but I really don't want to do anything to your son." Enlin heaved a forlorn sigh. "Then what do you want?" Ao Meng calmed himself down as he stared intently at Enlin. "I already told you. The 4-9 Immortal Sect is facing a financial crisis, so I just want to borrow some money from you. I'll pay you back in the future." Enlin spoke with a resigned expression, "But your son tried to kill me right away, so I changed my mind. I want to rob you now." Xiao Zhe and the others drew a sharp intake of breath. Ao Meng and Lu Zhenhai also drew a sharp intake of breath. What the F***ck, wasn't that the same thing? Chapter 11:29. Lu Zhenhai chuckled coldly in his heart. If Enlin really wanted to kill him, his son would be dead by the time he called for reinforcements. Lu Zhenhai continued to chuckle coldly in his heart. "It wasn't your storage ring that was lost. It was my storage ring, so of course you'd be optimistic. From this day forth, the Dragon Court would most likely not be able to mess with the 4-9 Immortal Sect anymore, you." Ao Meng's body trembled with rage. I'm going to Lu Zhenhai." Su Xiaolan reluctantly believed him. Enlin, I believe you. The father and son embraced one another, creating an extremely touching scene. Ao Meng had already sworn a Dao heart vow that he wouldn't attack Enlin no matter how angry he was. Ao Meng suddenly let loose an almighty roar before transforming into a bolt of black lightning that tore through the seawater. Enlin, Ao Meng immediately made his way over to him. Don't say anything yet. Hurry up and heal your injuries. Enlin, hee, didn't you say you were going to kill me here? I only wanted to borrow 10 million spirit stones, really. Enlin chuckled. You almost killed me and wasted a 5th-grade immortal fruit on me. I'm not going to lend you any more money. I'm going to rob you. Enlin, don't go too far. Ao Meng roared again. Ao Xinyus, I'm going to swear a Dao heart vow never to harm any members of the 4-9 immortal sect, was cut off by the Dragon King's words. That's right, the Dragon King of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas had chosen to run away. This was the first time he had seen someone act so shamelessly. Giant Enlin is becoming more and more of a villain, Tina couldn't help but remark. Tina had mastered spatial skipping, so catching up to Lu Zhenhai was a piece of cake for her. Enlin rolled his eyes. What are you talking about, Dragon King? What kind of robbery is for a specific amount of money? A real robbery is for you to take all of the other party's belongings. Borrowing 10 million spirit stones was equivalent to robbing 10 million spirit stones? It really did sound the same. He carted Ao Xinyu into the Dragon Court's healing formation as he spoke. 10 million spirit stones? Ao Meng was a little enraged. That's impossible. I don't have that much money. I haven't said anything about you yet. If you had rushed over, we wouldn't have ended up like this. Father. Ao Xinyu came to his senses and spoke with great difficulty. Oh, that's right, prior to his departure, he also made Ao Xinyu and Lu Zhenhai swear Dao heart vows that they wouldn't attack any members of the 4-9 immortal sect in the future in order to express the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the 4-9 immortal sect's eternal brotherhood. It turned out that borrowing money and robbing were really different for Enlin. Dragon King, wait for me! Lu Zhenhai shouted for help. Thump thump thump. Pa pa pa. Da da da. Pu piu piu. Enlin handed Ao Xinyu over to Lu Zhenhai before extending a salute. Thank you for your generosity, Mr. Lu Zhenhai and Mr. Ao Xinyu. I'll be sure to remember what you've done for me, and I'll be sure to repay you once the 4-9 immortal sect transcends this ordeal. No problem. Leave your storage rings behind, and I'll keep Ao Xinyu safe. Enlin patted his chest. I'm a professional. Ao Meng was enraged by Ao Xiaowu's reaction. Stop. Don't let him get away. Enlin suddenly yelled. The 7th Dragon King Prince thought about it for a moment before giving up in the end. Ao Meng seemed to be able to guess what they were thinking, and a pained expression appeared on his face. Don't blame me for leaving you behind to get reinforcements. After all, I can't beat Enlin and his gang. There are precious Dragon Tribe treasures in my storage rings, so I can't lose them. As such, the only thing I can do is go back to the Dragon Court to get reinforcements. Enlin and the others chased after him, but the Dragon King had fled far too suddenly this time, so it was very difficult for them to catch up. Lu Zhenhai's face convulsed, and he almost let loose a torrent of abuse. Chills ran down Lu Zhenhai's spine, and he could only flee into the distance. Even Ao Xinyu shot a feeble glance at Ao Meng. Why are you all looking at me like that? Enlin's lips twitched at the sight of the trusting expression on Ao Xiaowu's face. Enlin wasn't going to kill them. After all, they were here to borrow money anyway, so it wasn't a good idea to fight and kill each other. After exchanging a few polite words with them, they departed. Enlin and the others were a little dumbstruck. Never would they have thought that Ao Meng would abandon his son for a storage ring. Son, you're finally back safe and sound. I was just about to get reinforcements to save you. Ao Meng immediately ran over to greet Ao Xinyu and Lu Zhenhai with tears streaming down his face. The blue dragon also fled into the distance. The two groups of people had separated. Everyone was dumbfounded. Enlin had only just finished speaking when he took Ao Xianyu's storage ring and refined it before stowing it away into his own storage ring. As she spoke, she walked towards her courtyard unhurriedly, obviously intending to sleep. Ao Xiaowu yawned as she stood beside Ao Meng, and she spoke in a soft voice. What? You're fine now? I'm going back to sleep now. Because it was useless even if he said it. Only then did Enlin and the others regain their senses. There was still a mighty figure of the dragon clan here. However, before he could run far, he was caught up by a group of good-natured people. Ao Meng. In the face of Enlin's scolding, the crowd surprisingly remained silent. Xiaozi, didn't you say you were going to wipe us out? I'll give you a chance now, don't run. Do you think I'm the kind of person who steals money from others? Ao Meng almost threw up a mouthful of blood upon hearing this. Asterisk hiss, asterisk hence, Enlin, don't think I'm going to let this slide. I'm going to make you pay for what you've done today. A vicious expression appeared on Ao Meng's face. Let go of my son. Ao Meng roared with rage again. He was only going to lose 10 million from borrowing money, but he was going to take everything he had. Enlin glowered at everyone with an enraged expression. He was very angry, but there was nothing he could do. What the hell? Why did he feel like he was interacting with Enlin when he was interacting with his eldest daughter? As long as you're fine. You have to learn to be optimistic and optimistic. After all, where there's life, there's hope. Even if your storage ring is stolen, you can still earn it back in the future. Ao Meng consoled. Enlin had successfully converted two Dragon Court mighty figures from enemies into friends. This was an extremely touching sight to behold. He even wanted the storage rings of other Dragon Clan mighty figures. Was he trying to kill all of them? I'm glad you understand. Ao Meng gave Ao Xianyu a hug with excitement. Ao Meng asked, what do you plan to do now? Ao Xiaowu did not retort in the face of Ao Meng's rebuke. Instead, she nodded slowly. All right. It's all my fault. If there's nothing else, I'm going to sleep now. They had stumbled into a blind spot, and they had finally come to their senses. A smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. Hasn't he always been like this? I've never seen him suffer a loss. If someone tries to bully him, he'll definitely try to bully them back even more. Enlin was completely unmoved. Ao Meng, your son is still in my hands. Do you not want him any more? Enlin transmitted his voice to Ao Xianyu. Ao Xianyu added in his mind. You're just afraid of death and losing money, right? I understand. Everyone drew a sharp intake of breath. The Dragon King was enraged, and the seawater within a radius of over 50 kilometers surged violently, as if it were gathering power. I understand. Ao Xianyu spoke with difficulty. Lu Zhenhai lay at the bottom of the ocean with bruises all over his face, and his storage ring had been taken by Enlin. Ao Xianyu's features paled. Lu Zhenhai returned to the Dragon Court with Ao Xianyu. You have to believe me. However, there was no response from the black dragon in the distance. Chapter 1130. A huge splash erupted over the boundless ocean. The black dragon over 10,000 feet in length let loose an elated roar before landing on a nearby island. Its arrival made all of the living beings on the island tremble in fear. Little Xiao, don't make too much noise when you land. It's not good to scare some of the plants and flowers. Enlin leaped down from the black dragon's head before instructing in a meaningful and heartfelt voice. Yes, master. The black dragon nodded obediently before transforming into a handsome young man again. Enlin sat on the beach with Xiao Zhe, Bryce, Su Xiaolan, and Tina all gathered around him with anticipation in their eyes as they looked at Enlin. I've heard that the dragon tribe has a lot of treasures. Is that true? Tina's gem-like eyes widened as she flew around Enlin and stared at his storage ring. Bryce shook his head. I've heard that the dragon tribe is the wealthiest tribe among all of the major tribes, and they love to hunt and hide treasures. There must be a lot of treasures in there. But the dragon tribe likes to hide treasures, but they don't necessarily hide them in their storage rings. They like to store their treasures in their treasure vaults, and look around when they have nothing better to do. Su Xiaolan offered a different opinion. Xiaolan is right. That's exactly how I am. Xiao Zhe nodded in agreement. And Lin swallowed. There's no point in talking about this. We'll know how many treasures there are when we open the storage ring. Now, it's time to open the storage ring. He refined and opened Lu Zhenhai's storage ring first. He was the leader of the Divine Guardian Squad of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas, a mighty figure at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage. Just what kind of treasures would he have? He completely exposed the contents of the storage ring to make it look like he was opening the storage ring. Rumble, the ground tremored violently. Everyone was dumbstruck by the scenes unfolding before their eyes. Xiao Zhe murmured to himself, "What is this?" What had appeared before everyone was a mountain of beautiful women. Each of them was a beautiful woman in a myriad of poses. They were all smiling sweetly and had exquisite dragon horns on their heads. Everyone was mesmerized by the sight of the mountains of beautiful women, and Lin silently made his way forward and laid his hand on one of the busted beauties. This is fake. There's no aura of life, but it's soft and warm. He really couldn't think of any words to describe his current mood. He was dizzy from the mountain of beauties in front of him. Xiao's mouth was dripping with glittering liquid. Is this a work of art? And Lin's mouth twitched. What a piece of art! Wasn't this just an inflatable doll from the mortal world? It was just that this thing was more lifelike than the ones in the mortal world, and it felt better. If that's the case, it doesn't sound bad? Giant and Lin, this thing is so disgusting. Let's just return it, Tina said with a disdainful expression. And Lin was about to retort. Su Xiaolan sneered, "Return my ass." And Lin was overjoyed and shouted, "Understanding orchid." Su Xiaolan continued, "Such a disgusting thing, of course we should burn it." And Lin, "Why does Lu Zhenhai have so many female dragon tribe cultivators? Could it be that he's plotting to create some kind of powerful puppet army?" Bryce analyzed with a serious expression. "That's right, that's very likely the case. We have to keep these things and unearth the truth behind them," Xiaozi said with an excited expression. And Lin nodded in agreement. "Leave it to me to unravel Lu Zhenhai's plot." He didn't even get a chance to finish his sentence when flames suddenly fell from the sky. Boom! The holy flames roared and illuminated the entire island, as if they were going to purify all evil in this world. The mountain of beauties in front of everyone was instantly incinerated into ashes by the holy flames. And Lin and Xiao's mouths gaped open, and they felt as if their hearts had been torn apart. Lu Zhenhai's evil artifact must be destroyed while it's still in the cradle. We have to be decisive and eliminate it from its roots. Su Xiaolan spoke with a serious expression as a few wisps of holy flames revolved around her fingertips. And Lin and Xiaozi, "You're right, Xiaolan. Well done." Tina yelled in support. There was always a mountain higher than the one before it. When the righteous rose a foot, the evil rose 10. And Lin and Xiaozi could only accept this cruel reality after their hearts throbbed with heartache. At this moment, in the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas, Lu Zhenhai. He was recuperating from his injuries as he heaved a forlorn sigh. I've planned and built a harem of beautiful female puppets for such a long time. And Lin and the others really got off easy. If I get the chance in the future, I'm going to take back my harem." Hatred flashed through Lu Zhenhai's eyes as a ball of flames burned in his chest. However, what he didn't expect was that this dream of his would never come true on an unknown island. After the group of unknown beauties had been purified, there were still many treasures that appeared from his storage ring. And Lin did an inventory to find that there were a total of 3,200,000 spirit stones, 6 high-rank spirit tools, 20 spirit pills, 2 immortal pills made by the dragon tribe, several tons of special sea products, and a pile of shiny golden metal objects that he didn't know if they were useful or not. All in all, it was not bad. The spirit stones were handed over to Xiaozi for safekeeping. The immortal pills made by the dragon tribe were very useful to dragon tribe mighty figures, so Enlin gave all of them to Su Xiaolan. She had the bloodline of a true dragon, so these immortal pills were very useful to her. As for the rest of the treasures, they were split among Enlin and the others. Let's see what Ao Xianyu has next. An excited smile appeared on Enlin's face. This dragon court war god should be able to give them a pleasant surprise. The storage ring was refined, and all of the spatial items were released. Rumble! Another burst of violent tremors erupted. Enlin was almost blinded by the sight of a shimmering golden mountain. That's right, everyone was blinded again. Enlin took a deep breath. Is this King Mountain of Gold? The mountain in front of him was very layered and looked very beautiful. It exuded the light of a tycoon under the sun. Xiaozi couldn't help but make his way over to touch the mountain before him, upon which his entire body began to tremble. Master, this really is a mountain of gold. And it's a mountain of 99.9999999 gold. We're rich. Enlin was completely dumbstruck. This mountain of gold was around 100 meters tall. How much would it be worth based on the shape of a pyramid with a 60-degree angle? This was no longer a simple question of whether or not he had a mine. My home has a mountain of gold. What mountain? A mountain of gold. Wait, I'm a cultivator. What do I need a mountain of gold for? Enlin suddenly came to his senses. A cold expression then appeared on his face, as if he didn't care about money at all. Master, if you don't want it, give it to me. Xiaozi's breathing accelerated. Su Xiaolan's face was also flushed. What a beautiful mountain! Enlin was dumbstruck. Weren't these two a little too worldly? Right. The dragon tribe seemed to have a special liking for shiny golden items. In the end, Enlin gave this strange mountain of gold to Xiaozi. Chapter 1131. After the golden mountain was distributed, Ao Xianyu still had some other things. Enlin didn't take Ao Xianyu's immortal tool, the 1,000-change dragon slaying spear. Perhaps it was because Ao Xianyu was holding onto the spear with a death grip even when he was about to be hammered to death. Or perhaps it was because Enlin had thought of the principle of leaving a way out for others in the future. Seeing as Ao Xianyu was so insistent, Enlin decided to leave the immortal tool to Ao Xianyu. He didn't lack an immortal tool anyway. On the island, vital stones were piled up in a dense pile. 1,120 vital stones, that's the equivalent of 11,200,000 spirit stones. He's so rich. Enlin couldn't help but exclaim. We've finally gathered all the spirit stones we need to repair the Starfire battleship. Xiao Zhe was elated. Confiscate all of the spirit stones. The rest will be the sect's discretionary funds. Enlin waved a hand and made arrangements for the pile of spirit stones. Then, there were over 20 spirit tools, over 50 spirit pills, and a large pile of treasures of the East Sea. Enlin only wanted sword-related spirit tools and gave the rest to Su Xiaolan and the others. Everyone picked out the treasures they needed from the ground. In the end, there was only a pair of gargantuan white claws. Everyone revolved around this pair of white claws as they pondered their uses. Enlin had used his divine inspection technique to confirm that this was a divine rank bone claw left behind by a Dao integration stage divine dragon of the primordial dragon tribe. Even though he didn't know how Ao Xianyu had obtained this, it was undoubtedly the most valuable item. Living beings related to the dragon tribe might be able to attain some enlightenment from this ancestor's claws. How about, I take one claw and master's wife takes the other? Xiao Zhe suggested. Su Xiaolan's heart warmed up upon hearing this. That's a good idea. Enlin didn't have any objections, but the image of a white figure suddenly flashed through his mind, and he immediately spoke up for Dabai. I think Dabai's technique is called the chaotic sky-crushing claw, right? It's a high-rank spirit tool that's about to rank up. Can we add some dragon claws to it to make it even more powerful? Xiaoza patted his chest. Don't worry, leave this to me. I know a thing or two about forging. A little bit? Can you do it? Don't blow up Debai's claws. Anlin was a little worried. Xiaoza scratched his head and said, Master, I'm actually quite humble. What I mean is, as long as you give me enough materials, I can even create a mortal artifact. Anlin, my God! You're actually such an awesome armament refiner? Only now do I know. Why didn't you tell me earlier? Anlin was shocked. But you didn't ask. Xiaoza looked aggrieved. Su Xiaolan rubbed the space between her eyebrows. I'm afraid this is the master who understands his disciples the most in history. Anlin suffered a critical blow. In the end, Ao Xianyu's 4-9 immortal sect assets were distributed. Debai's matter was left to Xiaoza. The group spent 9 days on the island without any worries or worries. Some of them were cultivating, some of them were cooking, and some of them were cultivating to become false immortals. Time passed by quickly, and nothing happened on this part of the ocean. However, Anlin and the others knew that the real battle was only about to begin. It was time to pay respects to the ancestors on Heavenly Dragon Island. The main mission of the 4-9 Immortal Sect's money-borrowing team had already been completed. However, after Anlin and the others encountered mythological beast Basya and the dragon turtle Divine Mountain, not only did Su Xiaolan get a peculiar feeling, but even Xiaoza was also struck by a peculiar feeling. They all felt like there was a great opportunity on the Divine Mountain. As the sect leader, Anlin naturally had to be concerned about the development of the sect's core members, so he decided to enter the so-called Dragon Tribe restricted area with the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. In a region of the ocean where dark clouds gathered, gale-force winds howled, massive waves surged, and lightning wreaked havoc. It was like a perilous region of the ocean. Regardless of whether it was the fishing creatures of the East Sea or the sea monsters of the deep sea, all of them fled this region of the ocean. There was once a stubborn sea monster that refused to leave, and a bolt of purple lightning fell from the sky, striking the ocean 5 kilometers away, upon which the sea monster was instantly charred to a crisp. This was hell for the weak of the East Sea, but it was also the gathering place for the powerful beings of the East Sea. A series of powerful dragons circled in the sky, as if they were the rulers of the sky and the ocean, summoning the wind and summoning the rain with unstoppable might. There was a gargantuan island directly in front of them. In other words, it was a mythological beast carrying a divine mountain on its back. This was the burial site of the Dragon Tribe patriarchs. It was both a tomb and a place with boundless opportunities. Almost all of the core members of the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas were absent from the once-a-decade ancestral worship ceremony. No matter where they were or what they were doing, they would all rush to participate. Dragon King Ao Meng stood at the forefront of the Dragon Tribe army. Among his 21 children, there were a total of 13 of them, including those who had died, defected, and had yet to reach the soul formation stage. There were also a total of 5 young prodigies of the 3rd generation. This meant that there were 18 direct descendants of the Ao family dragon tribe present. Aside from that, there were also non-Ao family dragon tribe members, such as the Divine Guardian Squad Commander Lu Zhenhai and the Divine Guardian Squad Captain Xia Zhe. There were a total of 28 dragon tribe powerful beings present. 10 of them were returned to void stage mighty figures. What was even more terrifying was that Ao Meng was accompanied by return to void final stage Ao Xiaowu, Ao Qingyu, and Ao Xianyu. It was not an exaggeration to say that this lineup could crush all of the powers and living beings of the East Sea. Ha ha! All of us gathered here are invincible in the East Sea. Who isn't afraid of us? This is the true power of our dragon court. Ao Meng couldn't help but sigh with emotion upon seeing this. If Anlin and the others were still here, they would definitely piss their pants. Ao Mingyu waved the fan in his hand with a faint smile. Humph! Ao Meng harumphed coldly. If Enlin shows up here, I'm going to beat the sh*t out of him. He's that powerful? Then come and beat me up. A voice suddenly sounded. In the distance, a man stood atop a black dragon and flew toward them atop a cloud. All of the dragon tribe powerful beings from the dragon court of the eastern seas stared at the man with astonishment on their faces. Ao Meng's expression shifted drastically as he let loose a cry of surprise. Howl? Enlin, why are you here? I'm here to give you a chance to fulfill your promise. Enlin spoke with a warm smile. Ao Meng almost threw up a mouthful of blood from rage. What the f***ck? Never would he have thought that Enlin would have the guts to face the entire dragon court and appear before all of the dragon court's eyes. Roar. You're here to die. Killing intent surged from Ao Meng's body. The authority of the dragon tribe was inviolable. Enlin and the others dared to face the entire dragon court even after all of the powerful beings from the dragon court of the eastern seas had been mobilized. In the eyes of outsiders, this was an extremely courageous act. However, to the proud dragon tribe, this was an extreme insult. Chapter 1132. Ao Meng was extremely enraged. The humiliation of being chased by Enlin was still fresh in his mind. You're the ones who walked right into my trap, so don't blame me for being merciless. He waved a hand through the air. All return to Void Stage winged dragons. Go and subdue Enlin and the others. Only 4 of the 10 returned to Void Stage winged dragons, including the Dragon King, stepped forward upon hearing this. The 4 returned to Void Stage winged dragons. Ao Meng's eyes widened as he turned toward the other 5 returned to Void Stage winged dragons. What's going on with you guys? Ao Mingyu and Ao Qingyu spoke with aggrieved expressions. Didn't we swear Dao Heart vows? You know what we're talking about. Ao Meng only came to his senses now. He had been so enraged by the sight of Enlin that he had completely forgotten about the Spirit Stone Mine vows. However, that didn't matter. There were still 2 returned to Void Final Stage mighty figures, which was more than enough to deal with Enlin and the others. The Dragon King turned toward Ao Xinyu, Lu Zhenhai and Ao Xiaowu. What's going on with you guys? Ao Xinyu replied expressionlessly, Father, Enlin is no idiot. After you ran away, he made me swear a Dao Heart vow not to attack the 4-9 Immortal Sect. Lu Zhenhai chimed in, me too. Ao Meng's eyes widened and he opened his mouth, but he didn't know what to say. He felt like 10,000 mythological beasts had ****ed him up. Then Xiaowu Yu. Ao Meng paused momentarily before speaking. Ao Xiaowu spoke in a gentle voice. Don't worry, Father, I won't let Enlin bully our dragon court. Ao Meng heaved a sigh of relief and was just about to speak. However, I won't take the initiative to battle either. If I'm also forced to swear a vow, then our dragon court will be screwed. Ao Meng. His words were stuck in his throat. Enlin almost burst into laughter upon seeing this, and he cracked his knuckles with a benevolent smile. So the dragon court is only sending these 4 people to practice with? The 4 returned to Void Stage winged dragons shuddered, and they silently retreated behind Dragon King Ao Meng before looking up into the sky and whistling as if nothing had happened. None of the 4 returned to Void Final Stage mighty figures of the Dragon Court appeared. Among the 4 of them, the most powerful one among them was only at the Return to Void Intermediate Stage. How were they supposed to fight Enlin? Fight my ass. Wasn't he looking for trouble? It wasn't like they were mortal enemies, so why did he have to humiliate himself like this? Ao Meng's face turned even redder with rage upon seeing this, and he gritted his teeth so hard that sparks were about to explode. Was the 4-9 Immortal Sect the natural nemesis of the Dragon Court? It shouldn't have set its eyes on that mine a few months ago. Ao Meng was both remorseful and angry. The 2 forces were locked in a stalemate. With Ao Xiaowu not participating, none of the Dragon Court powerful beings dared to attack the 4-9 Immortal Sect. Enlin wasn't going to take the initiative to fight the Dragon Court either. If Ao Xiaowu got serious, then even he would most likely be unable to handle it. The risk was too great, so it was better to play it safe. Ha ha! Who would have thought that the ancestral worship ceremony would be so interesting? Finally, it's not going to be so boring. A majestic voice suddenly rang out, inadvertently producing sound waves that even formed shock waves, creating huge waves in a radius of several dozen kilometers. Mythological beast Basya raised its head, and a smile appeared on its face. The green-veined patterns on its skin were like ravines, and its face was slightly furrowed. This was a very devilish smile, indicating that it was enjoying itself immensely. All right, it's time for the ancestral worship ceremony. All eligible Dragon Tribe descendants may proceed to the Dragon Turtle Divine Mountain to pay their respects, Basya announced. Boom! A semi-transparent blue halo began to appear. This was the enchantment barrier that Basya had set up. At the same time, a blue gate of light appeared in front of the Divine Mountain. From the information provided by Balian, Unlin and the others knew that this gate of light was the passageway to the ancestral worship ceremony grounds. As long as they could pass through it, they would be recognized by the ancestral worship ceremony grounds. Let's go! Ao Meng repressed the rage in his heart and shot a glance at Unlin and the others before transforming into human forms and flying toward the gate of light. Unlin and the others looked at one another before following along behind them. One dragon court of the Eastern Seas Dragon Tribe cultivators after another passed through the gate of light. A dangerous light flashed through Ao Meng's eyes at the sight of Unlin and the others following along. Sect leader Unlin Shur is brave to allow Xiao Zhe to enter this divine mountain by himself. Our dragon tribe will be sure to entertain our brethren well. A faint smile appeared on Xiao Zhe's face, and he was not nervous in the slightest. He swaggered into the gate of light. Dragon King brat, you have to entertain me well. If you don't, I'll hold you responsible. Who are you calling a brat? Ao Meng's eyes were burning with rage. I'm talking about you, Xiao Zhe admitted. Even a return to Void final stage Dragon Tribe mighty figure had sworn a vow, so all other return to Void stage mighty figures were nothing more than massages to him. Xiao Zhe entered without any resistance from Basya's enchantment barrier. You're all alone here. I have 100 ways to kick you out of the Dragon Turtle Mountain. A cruel smile appeared on Ao Meng's face. However, right at this moment, a lithe and graceful figure passed through the gate of light and arrived beside Xiao Zhe. Ao Meng and all of the other Dragon Court powerful beings were rooted to the spot. How did you get in here? Ao Mingyu exclaimed. Senior Basya, is there something wrong with this situation? Ao Meng murmured as he turned toward Basya. However, Basya couldn't even be bothered to turn his head as he continued to stare blankly ahead. No one without the Dragon Tribe bloodline could enter the Dragon Tribe ancestral worship ground. Even Basya couldn't defy this rule, as this was a rule set down by their ancestors. However, this human woman in front of them had refreshed their worldview. That's right, she was Su Xiaolan of the 4-9 Immortal Sect. She was able to pass through Basya's enchantment barrier, which means that her identity has been acknowledged by our ancestors. Could it be that? Ao Meng's pupils contracted. A piece of information appeared in his mind. Su Xiaolan was a disciple of the Vermilion Bird Sect. A conjecture that had never been mentioned before and had never thought of understanding or exploring suddenly surged into the old Dragon King's mind, causing his breathing to quicken. Who are you? One of the Dragon Tribe mighty figures asked. All of the Dragon Tribe mighty figures were astonished and perplexed. Su Xiaolan ignored them. She just stood silently by Xiao's side with her head raised. Her eyes were clear and calm, and the jade barley-inked garment fluttered gracefully in the wind like a green lotus that exuded an otherworldly holiness and pride. From a bloodline perspective, she was basically related to all of the Dragon Tribe powerful beings here. However, she would never admit this identity. Unless Ao Xiaowu wanted to kill her. That's right, This was the agreement she had made with Enlin. Otherwise, Enlin wouldn't be able to trust Su Xiaolan to enter the Dragon Tribe restricted area with Xiao Zhe. Xiaolan really went in. Let me try as well. Tina followed along behind before crashing into the enchantment barrier. Little Na, you're not a Dragon Tribe cultivator, so stop messing around. A faint smile appeared on Enlin's face as he tried to grab Tina away from the enchantment barrier. All of a sudden, his hand accidentally passed through the enchantment barrier. It was as if the enchantment barrier didn't exist. Enlin felt like something was amiss. He inserted his hand into the gate of light to find that it didn't reject him. A bold idea suddenly appeared in Enlin's mind. He took a deep breath, took a step forward, and walked into the passage of the rippling door of light. 3 seconds later, Enlin appeared beside Xiao Zhe and Su Xiaolan, and he scratched his head in confusion. All of the powerful beings from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the 4-9 Immortal Sect were completely dumbstruck. Chapter 1133. If Su Xiaolan's entry into the Dragon Turtle Mountain could be traced, then what was Enlin's entry into this Dragon Tribe restricted area? Ao Meng was completely dumbstruck. Not only were all of the Dragon Tribe cultivators dumbstruck, but even their allies were also dumbstruck. Oh right, Enlin himself was completely baffled as well. He knew that he didn't have the Dragon Tribe bloodline. As for why he was able to enter this place, it was all because he discovered that his hand had passed through the enchantment barrier when he was trying to grab Tina. Seeing as the enchantment barrier wasn't going to stop him, he was naturally happy to enter this place. Senior Basya, is there something wrong? Tears welled up in Ao Meng's eyes. Basya cocked his head to the side with an intrigued smile. There's actually nothing wrong with this. This is really interesting, hee. Senior Basya, may I ask how I was able to pass through this enchantment barrier? Could it be that I really do have the Dragon Tribe bloodline? Enlin asked in an urgent voice. He was far too curious about his own identity. All of the Dragon Tribe cultivators, all of the 4-9 Immortal Sect cultivators, all of the living beings present were astonished. So he didn't King know? Everyone's skin crawled. Ao Meng looked as if he had seen a ghost, and he clasped a hand over his heart, which was about to explode. A smile appeared on Basya's face. Think about the name of this island and think about the name of this mountain. The inheritance you obtained is far more complicated than you think. That's all I have to say. I wish you good luck. All of the Dragon Tribe powerful beings were completely dumbstruck. All of the 4-9 Immortal Sect cultivators who were familiar with Enlin fell into deep thought. Heavenly Dragon Island, Dragon Turtle Divine Mountain, inheritance obtained, when everything was connected, a guest tore through all the mysteries like a clap of thunder. Enlin had an epiphany. Heavenly Dragon Island was actually the combined name of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe and the Dragon Tribe. The Dragon Turtle Divine Mountain was actually the Divine Mountain of the Dragon Tribe and the Heavenly Turtle Tribe. The inheritance Enlin had obtained was the most powerful inheritance left behind by Tianqinji of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe. This meant that not only could the younger generation of the Dragon Tribe enter, but it could also allow the younger generation of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe to enter as well. This was not just a restricted area for the Dragon Tribe, but also a restricted area for the Heavenly Turtle Tribe. In this case, it made sense that Enlin, who was related to the Heavenly Turtle Tribe, wasn't rejected by the barrier. Xiaolan is half a member of the Dragon Tribe, so does that mean I'm half a member of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe? Enlin blinked his eyes and suddenly shuddered. Xiaolan had half of the dragon bloodline. Could it be that he had accepted Tianqinji's inheritance and become a half-turtle son? No! Enlin shouted in despair. If he really did possess the bloodline of the Heavenly Turtle Tribe, what kind of experience would it be if his body grew a turtle shell one day? Could it be that he wanted him to be Master Rashi? This was too terrifying. Everyone was shocked by Enlin's sudden, shattering cardiac roar. What was going on? Enlin, are you all right? Su Xiaolan hurriedly rushed over to support Enlin. Enlin's features were deathly pale, and he shook his head with difficulty. I'm fine. I'm fine, Su Xiaolan's brows furrowed. You don't look fine at all. I'm really fine. I just thought of a certain unrealistic possibility. Enlin waved a hand and decided not to think about that possibility. He turned toward Tina and Bryce, who were still outside the enchantment barrier. Wait for me outside. Be careful. All right, Giant Enlin, you have to be careful too. Tina sat down on Bryce's branch and waved goodbye with a dainty smile. Ao Meng turned to Enlin with a grave expression. If Xiao Zhe and Su Xiaolan had just come in, he wouldn't have been so concerned. However, Enlin's combat prowess was comparable to that of a return to Void final stage super mighty figure. Aside from Ao Xiaowu, there was no one here who could stop him, so the Dragon King of the East Sea was getting a little nervous. Let's go. Ao Meng decided not to get into a conflict with Enlin here, and he led the way up the mountain. Enlin and the others followed along behind Ao Meng and the others upon seeing this. With a powerful being leading the way, why not? The Dragon Turtle Divine Mountain had a no-fly zone, so everyone quickly advanced along the mountain path. Along the way, there were lush trees and vibrant flowers, creating a picturesque scenery. I feel like even breathing is very comfortable here, Xiao Zhe chimed in. I feel the same way. Su Xiaolan nodded. Me too. Enlin chimed in. Xiao Zhe and Su Xiaolan turned toward Enlin with peculiar expressions on their faces. Why are you two looking at me like that? Enlin was quite dejected. Su Xiaolan asked in a faint voice, Are you really a turtle? It's the inheritance of the heavenly turtle tribe. Enlin clasped a hand over his chest with an earnest expression. A moment later, he was a little elated. But I didn't think that you would be able to guess that. Master, that green turtle shell of yours is so obvious, it's very easy for me to associate it with you. Xiao Zhe lashed out. Green F***king shell? Enlin swore to himself that in order to maintain his dignity and image, he would never use the evading turtle technique again. They were over 50 kilometers away from the summit of the Divine Mountain. Everyone had used spell techniques during their ascent, such as the wind flame wheels, the fleeting steps, or the ability to leap several hundred meters at a time. Not long after that, they reached the summit. In contrast to the spring weather at the base of the Dragon Turtle Divine Mountain, the summit was extremely cold. White snow stretched as far as the eye could see, and snowflakes danced in the sky. The summit of the mountain seemed to have been leveled by someone as it was extremely flat. There was an extremely majestic statue of a huge dragon standing at the very center, and there were flourishing blue cherry blossoms growing all around it. The cherry blossoms danced in the chilly wind, and they seemed to be exuding the power of frost. Is that dragon the ancestor they're praying to? Enlin looked up at the dragon. From its appearance, there was nothing special about the statue. It was just an ordinary azure dragon that coiled in the air. It looked up at the sky with a proud and domineering expression, as if it were the ruler of heaven and earth. Enlin had experienced this feeling in too many places, so he had developed antibodies against it. That should be the ancestor of the dragon tribe. Su Xiaolan took a couple of steps forward with a scorching desire in her eyes. It must be our ancestor. Xiao Zhe's breathing accelerated as he spoke with excitement. Enlin looked at the two of them with a perplexed expression. Both Su Xiaolan and Xiao Zhe seemed to be very reverent toward this statue. Could this be a special feeling that only members of the dragon tribe could have? He turned toward Ao Meng and the others. He then discovered that all of the dragon tribe powerful beings were looking at the statue with scorching reverence in their eyes. Even Ao Xiaowu's expression had become a lot more solemn than before. Is it really that amazing? Enlin was a little surprised. He suddenly recalled that he was related to the heavenly turtle tribe. Would he also be particularly reverent toward the turtle statue after seeing it? Gasp! Enlin drew a sharp intake of breath at this thought. Too scary, this was too scary. He was Enlil, sword immortal and the war god of the celestial court. Was he supposed to be reverent toward a turtle? No. That was impossible. Chapter 1134. Enlin's heart sank at the thought of this possibility. Speaking of which, there was a dragon tribe statue at the summit of the Dragon Turtle Divine Mountain, but where was the Heavenly Turtle Tribe statue? Enlil was related to the Heavenly Turtle Tribe, so he couldn't be worshipping the Dragon Tribe ancestor, right? He looked around, but he couldn't see any tortoises. At the summit of the Divine Mountain, there was nothing else aside from a majestic statue of the Dragon Tribe ancestor and a forest of blue cherry blossoms. The descendants of the Dragon Tribe pay their respects to the Dragon Tribe ancestor. May the Dragon Tribe ancestor bless our tribe. Aomeng stood at the forefront of all the Dragon Tribe cultivators and made a strange hand seal before extending a bow toward the Dragon Tribe ancestor. All of the Dragon Tribe cultivators behind him followed suit. Xiaoza and Su Xiaolan's expressions also became extremely solemn at this moment as they imitated Ao Meng's hand seal and extended a bow toward the Azure Dragon statue. At that moment, the giant green dragon seemed to have come to life. It looked down at the group of dragons who were worshipping it. Green particles of light emitted from its body and rose into the sky like fireflies. The dense dark clouds suddenly parted. Boom, boom, boom. Pillars of azure light tore through the dark clouds before descending upon all of the Dragon Tribe cultivators. Xiaoza and Su Xiaolan were also baptized by the pillars of light. Except for Enlil. That's right, Enlil was like a husky who had accidentally exposed himself among a pack of wolves. All of the Dragon Tribe cultivators were baptized by the pillars of azure light, and he was the only one standing there blankly. He didn't know what to do, and he couldn't help but feel a little awkward. He imitated Su Xiaolan and attempted to make a hand seal to extend a bow, but the Dragon Tribe ancestor completely ignored him. Is this the aura of the Dragon Tribe ancestor? It's such a pure feeling, as if it's the origin of everything, as if it's the pinnacle of Tao. Su Xiaolan's eyes lit up as she murmured to herself, I understand now. The true path that the true dragon bloodline pursues. Xiaoza seemed to have also attained enlightenment, and he closed his eyes in deep thought. It was quite clear that this ceremony was not just a simple bow. It was extremely beneficial to all of the Dragon Tribe cultivators. Enlin's heart itched at the sight of this. Where was his big turtle? The cyan light pillar began to dissipate, and all the Dragon Clan's experts had gained something. The happiest ones were Su Xiaolan and Xiaoza. They seemed to have comprehended something extremely important. Enlil knew that this was not the end. From the information provided by Balian, there was another true trial awaiting them. The Cyan Dragon statue's eyes flashed, and the vermilion-red door pillars rose from the ground. Between the two dragon-engraved door pillars, there was a water-ripple light gate that couldn't be seen inside. Aomeng turned to the Dragon Tribe cultivators behind him. The ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm has already been opened. Remember, don't engage in battles that you're not confident of winning. Make sure to stay alive no matter what, and wait for the summoning in 2 days. At this moment, the Dragon King of the East Sea did not make any high-sounding declaration of war. Instead, he advised the powerhouses of the Dragon Clan to save their lives first. This was all because that place was really very dangerous. As for why they had to go even though it was so dangerous, it was naturally because there was something worth risking their lives for in there. What about the ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm? Enlil smiled before turning to Su Xiaolan and Xiaoza. Do you want to go? Su Xiaolan and Xiaoza nodded in unison without any hesitation. Enlil smiled. All right, I'll go with you. There were a total of 28 Dragon Tribe cultivators participating in the ceremony. However, there were only 20 who chose to enter the Gate of Light. Enlil, Su Xiaolan, and Xiaoza all chose to enter the Gate of Light. Enlil, you're not a Dragon Tribe cultivator, so why are you going in there? A crisp voice sounded in his mind. This was clearly a voice transmission technique. Unlin turned to discover a delicate and pretty dragon tribewoman with her hands clasped behind her back and a smile on her face. Unlin recognized this woman. She was Princess Inu, the only sister that Balian was concerned about. Come to think of it, Unlin had saved her life before, so he could be considered a good friend. In order to avoid the Dragon King's detection, the two of them had a tacit understanding not to acknowledge each other. Now that the Dragon King had entered the Gate of Light, Inu couldn't help but start a conversation with Unlin. Unlin transmitted his voice. I'm just curious, so I'm going in to broaden my horizons. Princess Inu couldn't help but chuckle. You really haven't changed. You're not going in. I'm so weak, so I'll pass. I'll be fine outside. I hope you can come back safely. Don't worry, I'm so bad *SS. I'll definitely come back safely. The two of them concluded their brief conversation. Unlin's figure disappeared into the Gate of Light. Ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm. I'm here. The ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm was actually the place where the dragon tribe resided. The ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm was only open once every 100 years for a month. However, the ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm was a little special. To put it more accurately, it was a backdoor that the dragon tribe ancestors had left for their descendants, and it only opened once every 5 years for 2 days. This realm was far away from the Void Star section of the ancient Tai Chu realm and was maintained by an extremely terrifying spell formation. Even returned to Void final stage mighty figures who had attained the power of the divine Tao wouldn't suffer any backlash from entering this realm. Don't think for a second that this was a paradise. On the contrary, it was a realm of slaughter. This was a battlefield where the dragon tribe powerful beings of the Western Dragon Forest, the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas, and the evil dragons of the ancient Tai Chu realm fought. This place was cursed by some kind of nomological power. If a dragon tribe cultivator killed another dragon tribe cultivator here, they would be able to absorb a certain percentage of their opponent's power and even improve their cultivation base. According to Balian, her sixth sister, Ao Yuetang, was only at the soul formation intermediate stage when she entered the ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm, but she had already progressed to the soul formation pinnacle stage after 2 days. This was why, even though the ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm was so dangerous, the dragon tribe powerful beings were still willing to risk their lives to enter it. In this world, they would either soar into the sky or become nourishment for other dragon tribe cultivators. Unlin was struck by a dizzying sense of space. In the next instant, he appeared in an unfamiliar world. Su Xiaolan and Xiao Zhe were nowhere to be seen. The teleportation in the ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm was actually the same as the teleportation in the ancient Tai Chu realm. Unlin stood atop a tall mountain as the frosty winds blew past. The earth was a series of mountain ranges, and the sky was a boundless, dazzling starry sky. The vastness of this place made him feel tiny and insignificant. Let's find Xiaolan first. This place is too dangerous. I have to be her guardian angel. A faint smile appeared on Unlin's face. He rose onto his brick and flew toward a certain direction. As for why he was flying in that direction, that was actually a direction that Unlin had chosen blindly. He believed that he and Su Xiaolan had a telepathic connection, so as long as they flew in the right direction, they would definitely encounter one another. Chapter 1135. Unlin was very confident. He continued onward atop his brick, flying over countless mountains. Howl! A golden-eyed flying snake with a pair of dragon wings roared before pouncing toward Unlin. Unlin put 2 fingers together before slashing them toward the flying snake. The powerful sword Qi tore through the void with an ear-piercing whistling sound. It instantly landed on the flying snake's body and cleanly cut it into 2. Insta-kill. Unlin shook his head. I didn't encounter any highly intelligent dragon tribe beings, but I did encounter many native mutant beasts with the bloodline of the dragon tribe, such as flying snake, dragon-tailed pangolin, dragon-claw tiger. I wonder what kind of strange things the ancestors of the dragon tribe did to the living beings of this world for there to be so many species with the bloodline of the dragon tribe. Lin's mind was in a mess as he continued onward in a daze. Boom! A powerful divine sense suddenly swept past him. The hair on Lin's body instantly stood on end as he turned toward a certain direction. A black shadow sprang up from the ground before rushing toward Lin. Both sides appraised one another with peculiar expressions on their faces. This uninvited guest had a pair of inky black dragon horns, but his eyes were crimson. He had a pair of bat-like wings on his back, and he held a crimson trident in his hand. Both sides fell silent for a few seconds. "What the hell is that?" Lin and the strange-looking dragon tribe man spoke in unison. "Lin, the dragon tribe man, you can talk? Are you a hybrid of the dragon tribe?" Lin was astonished. "Ha, hybrid? I'm a pure-blooded dragon, you piece of sh*t. The dragon tribe man cackled with a ferocious expression. "Who are you calling a piece of sh*t? Lin's expression darkened with rage. "I'm talking about you. You're a hybrid, right? You don't even have the characteristics of a dragon tribe and look just like a human. You're the real sh*t. A disdainful expression appeared on the dragon tribe man's face as his aura soared explosively, sweeping through the vital energy within a radius of 5 kilometers. His aura was terrifying, but to Lin, this kind of aura paled in comparison. "What do you mean by looking like a human? Your grandfather, am a human." Lin's skin suddenly turned crimson gold, and his aura exploded. "What?" The man from the dragon tribe felt the terrifying aura, and his expression changed drastically. Rumble! The flames beneath Lin's feet suddenly exploded, forming waves of flames that illuminated the entire night sky. Before the dragon man could react, Lin had already rushed in front of him with the help of the terrifying force and punched him. So fast! The man from the dragon tribe had just placed the crimson trident in front of him to protect himself when a terrifying power surged towards him. It was an explosive power. With a tearing sound, the power of the fist smashed the trident into pieces, and the man's chest caved in. "Pfff!" The dragon tribe male spat out a mouthful of blood as he flew back thousands of meters. He almost fainted from the punch. Divine flames and holy flames revolved around Lin's body, and he looked down at the man from the dragon tribe with a disdainful expression. "Humph! A mere return to void intermediate stage piece of trash dares to act so arrogantly in front of me?" He was just about to continue flexing. However, he discovered that his opponent had fled without even turning back. The man from the dragon tribe fled without any hesitation. After being knocked flying, he immediately turned to flee, and he even used a mystic technique to do so. Lin looked at the man who had fled for several dozen kilometers in the blink of an eye and finally gave up on pursuing him. He wouldn't be able to catch him even if he wanted to, sigh, if only I knew Little Na's spatial skipping. Lin was a little disconsolate. Thinking about it now, short-distance spatial skipping really was a miraculous technique for evading danger, killing enemies, and robbing treasures. Lin swallowed a blood spirit pill before continuing to fly on his brick. That B** just said that he was a pure-blood dragon tribe cultivator, but neither the western nor the eastern dragons look like that. Could it be that he's a powerful being from the ancient Tai Chu realm? Dragon horns, crimson eyes, bat wings, and a pitchfork. What a low profile. If it weren't for those dragon horns, I would have thought that he was a member of the true demon tribe. Lin couldn't help but grumble about the appearance of this tribe before continuing to fly on his own. Within a region rife with tall, sharp mountains. "Master Dark Knight Trident, you've finally returned from your hunt." "Master Dark Knight Trident, how did you get injured?" The two men with dragon horns and crimson eyes let loose cries of surprise upon seeing Lin. The man clasped a hand over his chest as he swallowed a spirit pill with a grave expression. "I encountered an extremely freakishly powerful human. The dragon tribe male was none other than the return to void stage mighty figure that had been knocked flying by Lin's fist. Ah! What did you say? How could a human be here? The two subordinates wore expressions of shock and disbelief. There's no need for him to lie to me about something like this. So be it. How's our satellite surveillance system coming along? Dark Knight Trident asked. The two subordinates immediately stood to attention before extending an ancient dragon military salute. Reporting to boss, everything has been set up. A cruel smile appeared on Dark Knight Trident's face. Very good. Let the hunt begin. The ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm was just like the Void Star section of the ancient Tai Chu Realm. There was no day or sun here, only eternal night and a dazzling starry sky. In one place, the lake here glowed with a white light, as if it were a round, white moon on the ground. Streaks of dazzling sword projections sliced through the air, accompanied by blood-curdling roars. The dragon tribe male plunged his sword into the heart of a massive lizard dragon that was riddled with wounds. The lizard dragon wailed in anguish and struggled, but its vitality was being stripped away relentlessly. The golden light in the dragon tribe male's eyes became purer and purer, and his aura also became more powerful. Are these the cries of the weak? How pitiful! The dragon tribe male chuckled with a cold expression in his eyes. If you don't want to be eaten, then you can only eat others first. To eat or to be eaten, that is the iron law of this world. Weak beings like you can only sacrifice your flesh and blood to me in order to become more powerful. This dragon tribe male was the publicly acknowledged number one powerful being in the dragon tribe, Ao Qingyu. The massive lizard dragon's vitality had been severed. Ao Qingyu closed his eyes, and his brows furrowed slightly. Too weak. I need more powerful enemies. I need powerful beings as my nutrients. Within the South Snake Sea realm of the East Sea, the lightning clouds were gathering more and more intensely. Mythological beast Basya was taking a nap. A bare-chested man from the dragon race with a burly physique covered in scars walked over the sea. He stopped in front of Basya and bowed respectfully. "Senior Basya, I'm late. Can I still go in?" Basya's narrowed eyes opened slightly. The time limit is not up yet, so you can still go in. Long time no see, you've improved a lot. The dragon tribe male withdrew his killing intent with a smile on his face. After holding back for 10,000 years, I can finally fight to my heart's content, so of course I've improved. Ever since Shen Yin and Ao Guanyu perished, and Ao Xiaowu has become a coward, there are very few dragon tribe juniors that are worthy of my attention. Not bad, kid, Basya commented in a cold voice. The dragon tribe male extended another salute. Thank you for your praise, senior. I don't have much time left, so I'll be taking my leave now and heading to the ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm. Chapter 1136. Within the ancient Tai Chu Dragon Realm, the blazing dragon flame exploded, turning the entire mountain into ashes. The crimson lizard dragon's flaming mouth hadn't even closed when the sword blade, which was imbued with bright blue lightning, whistled through the air before striking the tough dragon armor around its neck. The blade of the sword was extremely terrifying, and the dragon armor was sliced open like tofu. Howl! The crimson lizard dragon only had a chance to let loose a wail of anguish before its massive head was severed. Blood gushed forth. The woman in the jade dress sheathed her sword in a graceful manner. A burst of energy flowed from the crimson lizard dragon before merging into the woman's body. Dead energy has nowhere to go, so it chooses a new master? Su Xiaolan pondered this. She discovered that the power of dragons that flowed into her body would not only be assimilated by the true dragon bloodline within her body, but it would also be refined by the power of the vermilion bird within her body, thereby making the power of dragons even purer. The overly powerful power of the vermilion bird bloodline within my body is the main reason why my cultivation base has improved so quickly. However, the overly powerful power of the vermilion bird and the overly weak power of the true dragon have become bottlenecks that prevent me from making further breakthroughs. A vibrant smile appeared on Su Xiaolan's face. Here, I can quickly strengthen the power of the true dragon bloodline. This is the best opportunity for me, so I have to make the most of it. When the true dragon bloodline becomes powerful enough that I won't be bullied or looked down upon by the overly powerful vermilion bird bloodline, that will be the time for me to make a breakthrough. Su Xiaolan was full of ambition as she embarked on her journey. On a vast expanse of white sand. Howl kukuku. There's a dragon tribe brat over there who looks like a pushover. What great luck! Let's go eat him. Immediately afterward, the anguished wails of the dragon tribe erupted from the white sand. Peace and quiet soon returned. After a long while, the voices of the dragon tribe erupted again. Howl! Ha ha! There's a dragon tribe brat over there who looks like a pushover. Let's hurry up and eat him. Stupid C****. The elderly and children can't take this lying down. Run! Another dragon tribe cultivator roared. In the next instant, the anguished wails of the dragon tribe erupted from the white sand. Howl! Help! Howl! The sand quickly returned to its calm state. A delicate-looking youth was strolling on the sand. Actually, now that you've met me, regardless of whether you attack or flee, the outcome has already been decided. Xiaoza sighed and continued to walk forward. He had been stuck at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage for countless years. In terms of age, he was probably older than everyone in the entire dragon court of the Eastern Seas combined. It wasn't that he was stupid and couldn't break through, but he felt that he hadn't comprehended the strongest defense. After comprehending the power of the divine Tao, he would have to continue down this path in the future. Since that was the case, why not comprehend the most powerful defensive divine Tao? He was most proficient in defense, but he wasn't the strongest. He did not know how to become the strongest, but he felt that perhaps this place could give him the answer. I'm very familiar with this place. Xiaoza had a look of reminiscence on his face as he walked step by step at a steady pace. What is the most inescapable and merciless power? It was not the ice and fire blades, nor was it the wind and thunder miasma, but the passage of time. Time can take away one's beauty, it can take away one's life, it can take away one's family and friends, it can take away everything I have. Even though Xiaoza appeared to be a young man, his eyes were filled with the vicissitudes of life. The white sand beneath his feet had once been a bustling dragon tribe city. There was a bustling market, a dazzling palace, a pavilion, a dragon arena. However, all of this had been eroded and engulfed by time, transforming into a boundless expanse of white sand. Aside from an old dragon like him, who was still alive, no living beings remembered this, as if this place had always been a vast expanse of sand. What could defend against the passage of time? The young man continued onward. It was as if he were walking on a path that would never end. Elsewhere in the ancient Tai Chu dragon realm, the sounds of battle erupted incessantly. Just the shockwaves from the battle had drawn lightning, gale-force winds, torrential rain, and all types of natural disasters. How dare you kill my wife? I'm going to kill you! A white dragon's golden eyes were tinged with red. It seemed to have gone berserk as it lunged at a black dragon in front of it. The black dragon had crimson eyes, and its body was several thousand feet in length. It looked like an eastern dragon, but it had a pair of huge bat wings on its back. It smiled proudly. Its pair of sharp claws could cut through gold and stone, and it tore off a large piece of flesh from the white dragon's body at an extremely fast speed. Ha ha! Ao Mingyu, you can't even protect your Tao partner, yet you brought her here. Don't worry, I'll send you down to reunite with your Tao partner. The black dragon chuckled contemptuously as it broke through Ao Mingyu's frenzied attacks over and over again, tearing off a large chunk of flesh from the white dragon's body. It could kill Ao Mingyu right away, but it didn't do so. It was enjoying the exhilaration of its prey being tortured to the point where it was unable to do anything as it slowly fell into despair. A return to void intermediate stage evil dragon could easily deal with a return to void initial stage eastern dragon. Furthermore, it was an evil dragon that was adept at hunting and hunting, so there was no way it would allow Ao Mingyu to escape. Hee, your Dao companion was killed by me, but you can't even hurt me. Is this all you can do when you're betting on a man's dignity? The evil dragon moved its body through the air to evade Ao Mingyu's attacks, and it would occasionally find opportunities to torture Ao Mingyu. Ao Mingyu was putting his life on the line and unleashing mystic techniques, but he was still unable to do anything to the evil dragon. Howl! I'm going to kill you! Ao Mingyu's eyes were bloodshot as he roared with rage. Are you very angry? Very angry? The more you act like this, the more excited I am. Cry and howl with grief. No one will come to save you even if you scream your lungs out. The evil dragon extended its long tongue with a joyful smile. Oh? No one will come to save me even if I scream my lungs out? Do you really think no one will notice your battle? A voice sounded from the distance. Who is it? The evil dragon turned toward the source of the voice. It was greeted by the sight of a man flying toward it atop a brick with his arms crossed over his chest. The evil dragon was dumbstruck. What the hell is that? Unlin. The evil dragon was in disbelief to see a living human in the ancient Tai Chu dragon realm, a place where the dragon tribe was at war. Your grandpa is here. Unlin spoke with an enraged expression. Why did all of the dragon tribe cultivators say this when they saw him? That's very rude, okay. He had initially wanted to find Su Xiaolan to save the damsel in distress, but he kept encountering all of these random dragons. The evil dragon's scales stood on end upon hearing this. Do you want to die? Ao Mingyu's expression faltered slightly upon seeing Unlin. However, he soon seemed to have made a very important decision, and his golden eyes became bloodshot as he gritted his teeth and roared, Unlin, if you help me kill this evil dragon and avenge my Dao partner, I'll give you everything I have. Unlin wore a disdainful expression. Who wants everything you have? Why would a grown man offer his body? How disgusting! Ao Mingyu. The evil dragon guffawed with glee. Ao Mingyu, have you gone insane from your desire for revenge? You want a soul formation stage human to avenge you? Ha ha! I'm dying of laughter. Boom! Right at this moment, a suffocating aura suddenly soared into the sky. The crimson golden Unlin chuckled. Ao Mingyu, I don't want anything from you, but I'll kill this dragon and take some money from you. Chapter 1137. Ao Mingyu faltered upon hearing this. The evil dragon stared at Unlin with incredulity on its face, as if it were listening to a heavenly book. Ha ha! Are you guys here to make me laugh? The evil dragon's body trembled with laughter. It had already used its divine sense to detect that Unlin's cultivation base was only at the soul formation final stage. No matter how intimidating his aura was, it couldn't change the fact that his cultivation base was still quite low. Really? You're not joking, are you? Ao Mingyu's voice began to tremble. He had initially planned to throw caution to the wind and never thought that Unlin would actually decide to help him. In fact, he was already prepared to be killed by Unlin along with the dragon. However, Unlin agreed without any hesitation. He even stated that he would only take a small fee for his services. The evil dragon extended a finger. Arrogant human brat, I'll take care of you. A scorching wave of flames suddenly swept toward it. The evil dragon didn't even get a chance to finish its sentence before Unlin's fist was already upon its face. The return to void intermediate stage evil dragon was completely unable to evade the fire god mode coupled with his wings of wind and Kuan Pung travel. As such, it could only block Unlin's fist with its head. Boom! Space crumbled as the fist projection surged for close to 10 kilometers. The evil dragon's head was torn apart by the terrifying power behind the fist, and its brain was reduced to mush. Even its soul felt like it was about to be pummeled out of its body. Pfff. The evil dragon threw up a mouthful of blood as its body tumbled back. Lin's storage ring flashed, and 2 Gundams appeared in the air. Gundam 3 Yaoji, keep an eye on it. Don't let it get away. Yaoji was capable of spatial skipping, so it could effectively impede the evil dragon's escape. This was Lin's experience with the last return to Void stage mighty figure he had fought. The evil dragon still hadn't recovered from its astonishment. Lin had already pounced toward it again. Fists fell like raindrops, each of which was imbued with extremely terrifying explosive power. Howl! Don't look down on me! Diamond Dragon Claws! The evil dragon let loose an enraged roar as it unleashed its most powerful spell technique. The pair of claws instantly shone with brilliant golden light, as dazzling as the sun. With a single swipe, it was torn apart. The golden dragon claw and the crimson golden fist collided, and every collision caused the void to tremble and distort. A man and a dragon fought from the sky to the ground. Lin's punch could cause the ground within a 10-kilometer radius to cave in, and the evil dragon's claw could even split a distant mountain in half. The area where the 2 of them were fighting had already turned into a terrifying danger zone. The more the evil dragon fought, the more shocked it became. It realized that even after using its trump card, it was still being suppressed by Lin. There were also 2 puppets with extremely terrifying strength assisting him in attacking. This was especially true for the puppet wielding the pink lightsaber. Her swordsmanship was superb, and her body had already been slashed dozens of times by her. Wounds of various sizes covered her body. If this continued, it would be defeated. Roar! Soaring dragon lightning flash. Crimson lightning burst forth from the evil dragon's body, and it swatted Gundam 3 away with its tail before abruptly accelerating into the distance at the pinnacle of the Return to Void intermediate stage. On this battlefield, one must not only know how to kill, but also how to escape. Otherwise, even if it only had 2 days, it would still end up as nourishment for the other dragon tribe cultivators. The evil dragon knew that Lin was more powerful than it was, and it couldn't defeat him. However, if it insisted on escaping, who could stop it? The evil dragon turned around with a mocking smile on its face. Hee boom! The crimson lightning around the evil dragon's body suddenly became much more powerful before crashing down toward itself. It was caught off guard, and its entire body shuddered as it convulsed in the air. At this moment, a pink light flashed before its eyes. Yaoji appeared before the evil dragon, and its fists were enshrouded in purple light as it hammered down upon the evil dragon. Purple energy shockwaves swept through the evil dragon's body like massive waves, and it felt as if it were being crushed by a mountain over 100,000 feet tall. Its massive body bent toward the ground as it let loose a blood-curdling wail as it plummeted from the sky. This was Yaoji's use of gravity to unleash its most powerful gravity fist. Lin had said that he couldn't let this evil dragon go, so it had to stay where it was and await Lin's execution. Just as the evil dragon was about to plummet toward the ground while howling with anguish, Lin had already charged toward it with his evil slaying sword in hand. He unleashed his wind sword technique, which sliced through the evil dragon's tendons. Sword projections fell like rain as they sliced through the evil dragon's meridians. Boom! The earth tremored violently. The evil dragon's body of several thousand feet long caved in from the impact, and blood splattered all over the ground as it was on the brink of death. Even so, the evil dragon still didn't have a chance to catch its breath. The blood soul cross fell from the sky and pinned it firmly to the ground, thereby cutting off any chance of resistance. Lin descended from the sky and pressed his inky black evil-slaying sword against the evil dragon's head as he looked down at it. Blood trickled down the evil dragon's lips, and its crimson eyes were still filled with shock and confusion. Who are you? A faint smile appeared on Lin's face. I'm just an ordinary soul formation stage cultivator. The evil dragon. Ao Mingyu, what are you waiting for? Hurry up and get over here. Enlin yelled at the white dragon in the distance. It's over, Ao Mingyu murmured. Even though he had witnessed Enlin's battles many times in the past, he was still extremely astonished to see Enlin easily vanquish an opponent who had struck despair into his heart. Ao Mingyu dragged his battered body over to the evil dragon, and his breathing accelerated as uncontrollable flames of rage burned in his eyes. Enlin replied, "You'll have to avenge yourself." Ao Mingyu faltered slightly upon hearing this. He didn't think that Enlin would call him here just for this. Even at a time like this, Enlin was still concerned about him. Ao Mingyu didn't waste any more time with words and merely nodded at Enlin. Immediately afterward, he unleashed his most severe punishment upon his enemy who had killed his wife. The evil dragon's blood-curdling cries reverberated through heaven and earth for a long time. In the end, the evil dragon was unable to withstand the cruel torture and died. Vast, powerful energy surged into Ao Mingyu's body, enhancing his bloodline power at an extremely fast rate, and the aura emanating from his body also became a lot more powerful. Ao Mingyu had avenged himself, and his cultivation base had also improved at a rapid rate. However, there wasn't much joy on his face. Instead, there was a look of grief on his face as he knelt down toward the yellow earth in the distance and kowtowed deeply. "Lingqiu, I've avenged you. Rest in peace." The third dragon tribe prince's body trembled as he sobbed to the ground. He didn't shed tears when facing his enemies, but his tears flowed relentlessly after killing his enemy. Enlin was also extremely disconsolate upon seeing this. This was the ancient Tai Chu dragon realm. It was an extremely cruel place. Here, one didn't care about power or status. The only thing that mattered was one's power. If one didn't have power, then they wouldn't be able to protect their loved ones. With this in mind, Enlin couldn't help but start to worry again. Under these circumstances, his top priority was to find Xiaolan as soon as possible. Chapter 1138. Enlin stowed this unknown evil dragon's storage ring into his own storage ring. Even though he was willing to give up his head, he couldn't give up his treasures. Ao Mingyu came to his senses and stood up before extending a deep bow to Enlin. Thank you so much. It was all thanks to Enlin that he was able to survive and avenge his Dao partner. This is my storage ring. Please take it." Ao Mingyu willingly handed over his storage ring. Enlin accepted the storage ring and refined it before taking the 230 vital stones from within before returning it to Ao Mingyu. "Mr. Enlin, you..." Ao Mingyu stared at Enlin with incredulity on his face. Enlin was so poor that he could rob a dragon king all the way to the dragon court, but he was only willing to take spirit stones? "I told you, I only need a small fee. You can keep the weapons and pills for yourself. After all, you're going to have to spend the next 2 days here." Enlin smiled. Ao Mingyu opened his mouth, but he still couldn't help but ask, "Why are you so nice to me?" Why was he so nice to him? Enlin thought about it for a moment. They were enemies in the past, but he had chosen to help Ao Mingyu most likely because of his blood relationship with the Dragon Court. Even if Su Xiaolan refused to acknowledge her blood relationship with the Dragon Court, it was a fact that her third auntie had been killed. He couldn't just stand by and watch, so he had to help if he could. Of course, he couldn't say that out loud. Enlin clasped his hands behind his back as he looked at Ao Mingyu's befuddled and grateful expression. Haven't the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas and the 4-9 Immortal Sect already established a friendly relationship? Over half of the Dragon Court returned to Void Stage mighty figures have sworn an oath of goodwill toward the 4-9 Immortal Sect. The 4-9 Immortal Sect is running out of money, so the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas is donating to them as a gesture of goodwill. As the sect leader, I can't just sit by and do nothing when the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas is in trouble. Enlin spoke with a serious expression. Ao Mingyu's mouth gaped open. What kind of reason is that? Mr. Enlin, Ao Mingyu, will never forget what you've done for me. If you need anything from me, just let me know. I'll do everything in my power to repay your kindness. Ao Mingyu extended another respectful bow toward Enlin. He didn't care why Enlin helped him. He only knew that Enlin had helped him take revenge, and saved him. That was enough. This realization came as quite a surprise to Enlin. It turned out that although the family environment in the Dragon Court of the East Ocean wasn't good and the people were messy, they weren't completely hopeless. Enlin nodded slightly and said, I don't need you to do anything. If we meet Su Xiaolan here, just help me protect her. That's all. Ao Mingyu was only at the return to void initial stage, but he was still a force to be reckoned with. It's always good to have extra insurance. Don't worry, if we really do meet, I'll be sure to keep her safe. Ao Mingyu nodded with elation. The two of them parted ways after a brief conversation. Enlin didn't have much time to waste here. He still had to find Xiaolan. He rose onto his brick and set off on his journey to find Xiaolan again. While he had nothing to do, Enlin refined the evil dragon's storage ring in order to see what the natives of the ancient Tai Chu dragon realm had. The storage ring was filled with corpses. There were corpses of dragon tribe cultivators and mutant beasts with dragon tribe bloodlines. Gasp! What kind of weird hobby is this? Collecting corpses? Enlin was quite surprised. However, that evil dragon was clearly a freak, so it was quite normal for it to collect corpses. Furthermore, there were many corpses with extremely high cultivation bases, and many of their body parts could be used for tool refinement, so they were quite valuable. Aside from that, there were also some normal weapons and pills. There wasn't anything that caught Enlin's attention. However, there were a lot of spirit stones, around 8 million. Enlin did a rough calculation and found that after taking into account the 2,300,000 spirit stones he had obtained from Ao Mingyu, he had a total of 124,600,000 spirit stones in his storage ring. So much money! Enlin's heart rate began to accelerate with this in mind. This was the first time he had ever owned so many spirit stones. Over 100 million. What kind of concept was that? None of the mighty figures who had died by his hands were as rich as he was. Wait, why am I thinking about all this? My first mission is to find Xiaolan. Enlin patted his own face and repressed his emotions before flying off in a random direction. This was a battlefield for the dragon tribe. Battles were erupting at every moment. Of course, there were also those who were very cautious, like hunters hiding in a dark forest. They didn't attack, but once they did, they would be able to kill with one strike. The lizard dragons of the western dragon forest, the evil dragons of the ancient Tai Chu dragon realm, and the eastern dragons of the dragon court of the eastern seas were the three most powerful forces in the ancient Tai Chu dragon realm. However, the dragon court of the eastern seas was the weakest among the three forces. Dao integration stage super mighty figures were unable to enter this dilapidated world, but return to void stage mighty figures had no such restriction. In terms of the number of return to void stage mighty figures, the dragon court of the eastern seas was still the least powerful. In order to avoid becoming fodder for their enemies, the powerful beings of the dragon court of the eastern seas usually chose to lie low and wait for an opportunity to strike. The sixth princess of the dragon king of the eastern seas, Ao Yuetang, was hiding in the shadows of a forest in a black robe, observing her surroundings with bated breath. She was a legendary figure in the dragon court of the eastern seas. 5 years ago, she had just progressed to the soul formation intermediate stage and entered the ancient Tai Chu dragon realm. After just 2 days, she had become a powerful being at the soul formation pinnacle stage. This event created a massive stir in the dragon court. What did she rely on to create this miracle? It wasn't power. Instead, it was her peerless finishing blow techniques. Was beating a powerful enemy to the brink of death a skill? No. Killing an enemy on the brink of death was a true skill. That way, all of the enemy's power would belong to her, not to the one who had wounded them. Power wasn't the most important thing here. No matter how powerful she was, there would always be someone more powerful than her. What she had to do was to lie low and wait for the right opportunity to strike. She didn't want to kill enemies at their peak condition. Even if they appeared to be weaker than her, she didn't want to mess with them. If she was going to kill enemies, then she had to kill those who had been wounded in battle. If the enemy could be severely wounded, then they would definitely die. This was Aoyuatong's finishing blow technique. She was able to create a miracle 5 years ago, and she could do it again this time. I'm definitely going to progress to the return to void stage this time. Aoyuatong hid in a forest with a scorching light in her eyes as she looked up ahead. In front of her, there was a western dragon at the Soul Formation Pinnacle stage battling against an evil dragon at the Soul Formation Pinnacle stage. Aoyuatong transformed into a shadow and slowly approached. Chapter 1139. Aoyuatong transformed into a shadow and slowly approached the center of the battle to ensure that she wasn't too far away from the two dragons. The lizard dragons of the western continent were bloodthirsty and murderous, while the evil dragons of the ancient dragon realm were violent and insane. When there wasn't much of a disparity in power between the two dragons, they would usually fight to the bitter end. The dragon tribewoman stopped 10,000 feet away from the two dragons and concealed herself. Looks like these two dragons are pretty much done with their battle. I love evenly matched battles the most. The one who fights to the bitter end is always going to be severely wounded, hee hee. Aoyuatong's eyes narrowed slightly as a dangerous cold light flashed through them. In a battle like this, it was very important to analyze who would fight to the bitter end. The lizard dragon appeared to be fighting with ferocious might, but it was clearly becoming weaker and weaker, and it was clearly struggling to maintain its high-intensity attacks. In contrast, the evil dragon was defending more than it was attacking, and it appeared to be at a disadvantage, but its movements had always been very stable, and it was even accumulating power to unleash a lethal attack. The evil dragon was going to win. Aoyuatong's expression darkened as a pair of translucent blue short swords suddenly appeared in her hands. Her muscles tensed up, and she was clearly preparing for her next attack. The two dragons roared as they clashed, and their battle cries erupted forth for 5 kilometers. The dragon woman was ready to attack. She analyzed the situation in her heart. I'm going to use my frost wing phantom slash to slice off its wings, then use my dragon blood killing slash to boom. A streak of white light suddenly fell from the sky, enshrouding the two battling dragons as if it were the judgment of the heavens. Aoyuatong could only see a dazzling sword projection flash before her eyes. Then, a sword projection erupted forth for close to 10 kilometers. Howl! The two dragons howled with anguish. Aoyuatong also let loose a wail of anguish as she was swept away by the terrifying shockwaves, and she flew back with blood gushing from her mouth before tumbling to the ground in an extremely disheveled manner. The sword projection faded. Aoyuatong lay on the ground with a blank expression on her face. Who am I? Where am I? What just happened? The two dragons that were fighting each other were neatly sliced into 2 halves, and they could not be more dead than they were. Her prey had been cleanly sliced in half without leaving anything behind. Not only that, but she had also been severely wounded by the shockwaves, killing 2 birds with 1 stone. A man in a flowing white robe flew over on his brick before stowing away the 2 storage rings as spoils of war. And no, it's 3 birds with 1 sword? The man was pleasantly surprised as he looked at the panic-stricken woman who had been pushed aside by the shockwave. Unlin, it's actually you. Aoyuatong's eyes widened, and she couldn't help but throw up another mouthful of blood as she was too emotional. Unlin turned to Aoyuatong with a puzzled expression. You know me? Aoyuatong. I'm from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas. My name is Aoyuatong. She had no choice but to introduce herself in hopes that the other party would spare her for the sake of her big sister, Ao Xiaowu. Why wasn't it Ao Meng? Ao Meng had already lost all face in front of Enlin. Enlin was shocked. "You're from the Dragon Court of the Eastern Seas? You're so ordinary that I didn't even notice you. I'm so sorry. Pfff. Ao Yuetang threw up another mouthful of blood due to her overexcited emotions. "I know I'm very ordinary, but please don't say that out loud, all right?" Enlin joined his fists in an apologetic salute at the sight of Ao Yuetang. "I was too careless and didn't notice you. It was pure accident, I'm so sorry." Ao Yuetang was a little surprised by Enlin's actions. She had always heard that Enlin was a violent, lawless, and unreasonable man. Now that she thought about it, he seemed to be quite polite. She waved a hand. "It's all right. I was the one who concealed my aura in order to take advantage of the situation. It has nothing to do with you." Enlin pondered Ao Yuetang's words for a moment before his expression shifted. "All you can think about is landing the killing blow?" Ao Yuetang was perplexed. "What's wrong with landing the killing blow?" Enlin was filled with righteous indignation. Landing the killing blow is a sign of disrespect for life. It's a sign of disrespect for the opponent, it's a sign of disrespect for fairness and justice. Landing the killing blow is a very shameless act. Ao Yuetang was a little dumbstruck by Enlin's words, and she was momentarily at a loss for words. Enlin clasped his hands behind his back, and his white robe fluttered in the absence of any wind. His eyes were imbued with a profound and alluring light as he spoke in a cold voice. "Using such lowly tactics will affect your Tao heart. Only weaklings land the killing blow. Powerful beings attack directly. Only in this way can one develop the mentality of a powerful being and progress on the path of cultivation. Only when one possesses unshakable power can one truly be considered powerful. For example, that sword strike I just unleashed was able to annihilate both the prey and the one who landed the killing blow. That is true power. Do you understand?" I understand," Ao Yuetang replied in a feeble voice. Enlin nodded with satisfaction before standing on his black brick and flying into the boundless night sky. Just like when he had first arrived, he came and went like the wind. After a long while, Ao Yuetang came to her senses and slapped her own cheeks as she looked on at Enlin's disappearing figure. "Is he a retard?" Enlin felt like he had flexed to the heavens, and he was feeling extremely refreshed. Seeing Ao Yuetang's disappointing performance in landing the killing blow reminded him of his past self. The words of wisdom that he had imparted to Ao Yuetang were actually meant for himself as well. It could be considered as a farewell to his past self. From now on, Enlin was the Flex King and who could do whatever he wanted. Lord of Transcendence, Tamer of Divine Lightning, Heavenly Lightning God, domineering titles like these were synonymous with him. Thus he flew for another hour. The sound of energy clashing erupted in the distance again. Was there finally going to be another battle? Enlin's eyes lit up, and he continued onward atop his black brick. He had already changed his strategy. He wasn't going to search for Xiaolan blindly anymore. Instead, he was going to kill all of the dragon tribe powerful beings he encountered. If he thought about it from a different perspective, then wouldn't there be no one that could threaten Xiaolan if he destroyed all of the potential enemies in the ancient Taichu realm? This was the most violent and direct method. It was much simpler than searching for her blindly. In any case, the lizard dragons of the western continent and the human race were mortal enemies, and the evil dragons were a completely inhumane species. Enlin didn't feel any pressure dealing with enemies like these. Just as his thoughts were running wild, and he was feeling smug with success, the terrifying power of the divine Tao in the distance suddenly swept toward him, striking fear into his heart. This was a battle between two return to void final stage mighty figures? Enlin's heart jolted with shock, and he immediately concealed his aura before slowly approaching the battle. The fisherman reaped the rewards when the sandpiper and the clam clashed. He was going to be the last hit king. Chapter 1140. A return to void final stage mighty figure had attained the power of the divine Tao. From then on, they were far more powerful than the average return to void stage mighty figure. Mighty figures of this caliber possessed the power to wound or even defeat Enlil. Enlil wasn't so arrogant as to charge forward and fight two enemies at once. In the distance, there was a vast expanse of ice and snow. This was not a natural phenomenon. Instead, it was the domain of a certain dragon tribe mighty figure. A giant ice and frost dragon could cover an area of 5 kilometers with its wings, and a single breath from its mouth could transform a continent over 10 kilometers in radius into a realm of ice and snow. A single flap of its wings could sweep up gale-force winds for a radius of over 50 kilometers. Within its ice and frost divine Tao domain, soul formation stage living beings would instantly perish upon contact. Return to void stage living beings would also become extremely slow or even freeze to death upon entering this domain. Across from it, a man stood proudly in the wind and snow. The two of them were vastly different in size, but the man's sword slashed through the air with a series of terrifying sword strikes, forcing the giant ice and frost dragon to take him seriously. "Heh, frost god Zhuama of the western dragon forest, is this all you've got?" The man sliced a frosty breath in half before making his way slowly toward the giant ice and frost dragon with a haughty expression. Enlil was able to ascertain the man's identity upon seeing his lines and appearance. "That's right, it's you, the #1 Flex King of the Dragon Court, Ao Qingyu." Of course, Ao Qingyu was also the publicly acknowledged #1 powerful being of the Dragon Court. Even though he had been insta-killed by Enlil once, Enlil still felt like he was very powerful. As for why he had been insta-killed, it was all because Enlil was more powerful. There was no other reason. "Howl! Ao Qingyu, don't get too cocky. If you were in the presence of the Western Dragon Forest's infernal flame Emperor Dragon, you wouldn't even dare to say anything." The giant ice and frost dragon roared. "I'm not targeting anyone. I'm just saying that you're trash." A faint smile appeared on Ao Qingyu's face as the long sword in his hand began to ring again, unleashing a sword projection that was powerful enough to slice through all things in this world. Enlil watched with great interest. The Dragon Court's #1 Act Tough King's style of speech was very arrogant, but it was surprisingly to Enlin's taste. The ice and frost dragon roared in the face of Ao Qingyu's sword strike, and it instantly materialized a massive ice mountain imbued with the power of the divine Tao in front of it. However, Ao Qingyu's sword projection was so sharp that it was able to slice through even the power of the divine Tao of ice and snow. The frost dragon twisted its huge body to the side. In the end, the sword still landed on its huge ice wing, cutting off one of its ice wings. "Roar!" Frost dragon Zhuama howled in pain. "You're courting death." Its remaining ice wing detached itself from its body of its own accord before transforming into countless terrifying ice blades that hurtled toward Ao Qingyu. Ao Qingyu's expression remained calm as he instantly unleashed over 1,000 sword strikes to shatter the oncoming ice blades. During this time, Zhuama's massive body was shrouded in wind and snow, and a pair of massive wings that obscured the starry sky appeared again, as if it hadn't been damaged in the slightest. Enlil narrowed his eyes. This Zhuama's body was a little strange. It didn't feel like a physical body, but it was indeed a physical body. Was this a special elemental state? A hint of interest appeared on Enlin's face upon seeing this strange ability. Boom boom boom, Frost Dragon Zhuama and the Dragon Court Flex King Ao Qingyu engaged in battle again. From the looks of it, Zhuama was on the back foot and was being hacked at relentlessly. Ao Qingyu's sword strikes were far too powerful. There was almost nothing within the scope of his sword domain that he couldn't slice through. Zhuama's wings, arms, legs. Even its head was severed once. However, it was like a cockroach that would never die. After kicking its head toward Ao Qingyu like a bomb, a new head grew out of its body. Enlin's horizons were greatly broadened by this type of battle. Frost and frost dragons couldn't die? How was he supposed to defeat it? Not only was Enlin perplexed, but Ao Qingyu was also perplexed by this as well. Enlin felt like Zhuama had used its divine Tao frost domain to transform its body into an elemental form. Even though it wasn't a physical body, it was still a life form. Sure enough, Ao Qingyu quickly retreated and escaped from the frost domain. He looked at the frost dragon with a grave expression, trying to get her to follow him out of the domain as well. Zhuama had indeed caught up to him, but it was within the range of the frost domain, which could transform the climate of heaven and earth into a realm of extreme frost in a single breath. How annoying! Ao Qingyu's brows furrowed slightly as he gripped his sword with both hands, and his golden eyes became even purer. If life forms are invisible, then I'll slice through your consciousness, slice through your divine Tao, and slice through all of the power you're displaying to me. Heaven and earth were instantly filled with boundless sword intent. Ao Qingyu's divine Tao sword intent domain instantly proliferated for over 50 kilometers. Extreme Dragon Sword, Heavenly Blade. A clear cry erupted as a sword projection stole the colors of heaven and earth. Everything in the wake of the sword projection was sliced in half, and even space itself was sliced in half. Even the sky seemed to have been sliced in half by this peerless sword projection. Zhuama's pupils contracted upon seeing this sword projection, and it spread its wings in front of itself, upon which a blue, twisted, spiraling hole materialized. Enlin nodded slightly as he sensed the power of this sword projection. This was most likely Ao Qingyu's most powerful sword strike. It was extremely terrifying, and it was actually the same sword strike that Enlin had faced during the battle at the Flying Ball Tribe mine. The dazzling sword projection lit up the night sky as if it were daytime. This was an extremely sharp sword projection, and it sliced the frost dragon Zhuama's realm of extreme frost in half. It sliced the twisted, spiraling hole in front of Zhuama's body in half, and it also sliced its massive dragon body in half. That wasn't the end of the sword projection. It even sliced the power of the frost dragon in half. Zhuama's blood-curdling cries reverberated throughout heaven and earth. The realm of extreme frost constructed from the power of the divine Tao of ice and snow was shattered by the terrifying sword projection, and the gaping wound extended into infinity and beyond, as if it were a never-ending scar that would never heal. The frost dragon plummeted to the ground and shattered into countless ice shards. Is she dead? No, she's still alive. Enlin focused his gaze, and he suddenly turned toward a certain spot in the air where wind and snow converged again to form a gargantuan frost dragon. A brilliant blue light erupted from Zhuama, and in the next instant, it appeared several dozen kilometers away. Spatial skipping. This return to void final stage lizard dragon was finally going to run away. What an annoying lizard! Ao Qingyu harumphed coldly, and he also unleashed his spatial skipping technique in pursuit of the dragon in the distance. He wasn't going to let Zhuama go just like that. Instead, he was going to give chase. Enlin looked at the trail of blood on the ground and murmured to himself, Zhuama, the frost god, really was wounded. Ao Qingyu's combat prowess had once again exceeded Enlin's imagination. Enlin estimated that he really wouldn't be able to defeat Ao Qingyu in a fair and square battle. However, there was no need for him to defeat Ao Qingyu. Killing Zhuama, a potential enemy, was the most important thing. Enlin looked toward the direction that Zhuama and Ao Qingyu had departed in, and he thought about it for a moment before gritting his teeth and giving chase.